a tornado imminent. It's going to be right here across the Lyons community. That's tracking almost east southeast, really, for the most part. A big strong area of rotation right here. Winds coming out of that's pretty quick as well. In fact, when we sample some of those winds at the Lyons area, you're 62 miles per hour. So minimally, you're going to have some pretty gusty straight line winds, but when they're rotating that fast, very well could pick up a tornado at any moment. Let's take a look at our debris tracker again. Make sure that nothing is trying to drop on us, and it is going to be a real possibility that sometimes things can pulse up and they can spin up, and we're going to have to watch that really closely for the next several minutes. Current time's 5:36. Joshua, if you would, remind me when this new warning is set to expire. I don't see any actual debris. Looks like 6:15. It just came up on my screen for me there. Not finding any debris, and they're coming into Stillwell. That's the good news for the moment. We'll have to take a look at our debris tracker again in just a few minutes to make sure nothing's changing, right? That can and very well could happen pretty quickly. Right here, Stillwell. This is going to be Fairfield, Zion, Cherry Tree. That comes into Washington and Crawford County when it finally does come into the Arkansas side of things. So you zoom out, you'll notice big bright area of blue matching up with those reds right there. That's that Doppler radar indicated rotation. Tracking east-southeast, you can see that red polygon. That's the actual tornado warning itself. And when you look at kind of the general orientation, you'll notice it kind of gives you a hint of the track that it's taking, and it is taking an east-southeasterly track. Joshua, when you get set up, could you give me a speed on the storm?
Yeah, and it looks like based off of the latest update that they're keeping this at around 55 miles an hour for the storm motion. They're saying to the east, but it almost looks more east-southeast with the last couple scans.
Sure. We'll do that. Blanche 540, Stillwell at 542. Evansville at 550, Antioch Church at 556. How about Strickler at 601? Devil's Den State Park, anyone camping out there this weekend, you need to be mindful of this. 605 is when we would expect that area of rotation to move through the state park there. Blackburn at 607. In the vicinity of the Bobby Hopper Tunnel, just for some context there, the Crawford, Washington County line, right around 6:09 this morning. New scans come in. I think the winds are still definitely there, but I'll tell you, it's not as tightly wound up as it was a few scans ago. So let's hope that trend continues. We can take another look back at just the rain mode, and sometimes that is honestly just as helpful to us as looking at the winds, but there still appears to be that big notching segment right there, that little kink in the line. It's in those kinks that you get those little eddies to form. Imagine this, when you run your hand through a tub of water, or if you're at the pool and you run your hand through it, and you get those little eddies to start to spin, those little funnels. That's kind of a similar thing that we're looking at out there this morning, and this is where that's happening. Now closing in on Stillwell, coming up on that 59-100 interchange there, right near Lyons. Lyons is exactly where that area of rotation is the strongest right now. Lightning's coming up. It's not going to be something that we see more than likely, just given the amount of rain that's moving through the area. Here's Rocky Mountain, here's Spade Mountain. Right now, Stillwell, you've got a couple of minutes to get to those safe locations. Let's get the shoes on. Let's put as many walls between you and the exterior of your home as possible. Lowest level, you know the drill. You've been through this a lot. We'll help you get through it this time as well. Right now, we go back into our debris tracker. Is there any actual debris? I'm not seeing anything. I know Josh was looking at it over there. Right now, that's the good news. Rotation, though, continues to be relatively present and persistent. Here's where it is, right here, right? Pretty much going to be right on top of Oklahoma 100, coming into Stillwell. Soon that moves over towards Evansville. So right behind me there's that Arkansas-Oklahoma state line, and that's where this is moving towards relatively quickly. I think it's going to move right into Stillwell, actually, before eventually closing in on Evansville. So this is going to be Washington County. We'll have to see if it moves more east or more southeast. Right now, there's still some questions as to regards to how far southeast it may track, which could take it closer into Crawford County. Right now, it's going to be really close on that Crawford-Washington County line. It's definitely tracking into Arkansas. The question is, where does it end up? It's going to be really close there on that county line. So folks at Devil's Den, I'm a little nervous for you. I'd like you to go ahead and get ready to take those tornado safety precautions, especially those in a tent or mobile home or a trailer. Camping trailer. Let's find those more sturdy structures as this continues to move into the area. Even if the rotation weakens, In a line like that, you're going to have a lot of gusty, damaging straight line winds. And when we sample some of these winds coming into Stillwell, Cherry Tree right now, you're looking at about 60 or so miles per hour, 68. So it's starting to come up a little bit. Minimally, we've got that coming out of it. That's enough to do a little bit of damage in of itself. That's a concern for us going into the next several minutes. Here's your tornado warning. This is going to be this red polygon here, this red box. If you live anywhere in this red box, you're included in this tornado warning, and that is our indication that you need to go ahead and seek shelter rather quickly. Decent amount of rotation. Taking a look at some other information here, the Fort Smith radar indicating there is some strong low-level wind shear in place ahead of this line. So the other thing that we're going to have to keep in mind, and we'll do this right now for us, we are going to have to watch all up and down this line. And I know Josh was doing it. You might see me focusing on the actual tornado warning itself. Josh was looking at the others, and we're going to be working our way up and down this line. Are there any other areas of rotation that are trying to develop? That's a real possibility for us, and sometimes it can happen somewhat quickly. So we'll keep an eye on it. The orange box here, which includes a lot of folks, Washington, Crawford, down into Sequoia County, a lot of Adair. That's going to be just a severe thunderstorm warning. We've got to watch those two very closely. Here's the darker maroon. That's going to be a flood warning, flash flood warning. We had rainfall rates between 1 to 2 inches of rain earlier. You got another storm moving in, so portions of the Northwest Arkansas metro area may see some additional flooding. We're going to focus in on the tornado warnings this morning. Top priority for us here. You notice that hook's now moving right through Stillwell. We'll pause right there. Rotation would be in this general vicinity, right where that hook is, south of Fairfield, moving through Stillwell. Area of Doppler radar indicated rotation still there. Zion, Stillwell. It's a pretty broad area, so I call out Stillwell in general. You might be wondering, okay, what part of town? Well, it's a broad enough area of rotation that it's going to include a lot of folks, especially on the west side of town right now. You go in a little bit closer. I think that rotation, as we speak, is now right on top of Highway 59. So we're really there downtown Stillwell for all practical purposes. That's where this rotation is going to be. We'll go a little bit closer. Here's 59. Of course, here's going to be Oklahoma 500, and that's where this rotation is right now. You got some strong winds coming into the area. That's not going to die down quick enough. Minimally, we've got a straight line wind potential, but when you got those little kinks, sometimes that's where you get those quick spin ups. That is apparently what happened with this cell back off towards the west. That's why that tornado warning went from red to purple. That's our way of knowing this is no longer Doppler radar indicated. It's actually confirmed. Now, it looks like that lifted, so we're not actually seeing debris lofted into the air right now. That's the good news for the time being, but that doesn't mean it might not try to drop another tornado with time. I don't see any debris right now showing up. That's good. Let's hope that continues to be the case. We'll focus in on that rotation right now, right on top of 59 in Stillwell. That's tracking off towards the east. Here's the Oklahoma-Arkansas state line, or the Adair, Washington, Adair, Crawford County line. Right in this general vicinity is where that is tracking, and it's getting closer and closer, and it looks like it's going to be hugging that Crawford, Washington County line. It's all going to come down to, does this thing move more east or is it slightly southeast? That's certainly something that is going to make a big difference for us out there this morning. We'll put another track on this. Was this still at about 55 miles per hour?
Yeah, they're keeping it at 55,
Okay.
at least with this latest update.
Okay, thank you. Let's do this. Let's go back to 55. Let's draw it right there. Zion still at 545, Evansville at 552, Strickler 604, Devil's Den State Park 607, the vicinity of the Bobby Hopper Tunnel at 611. Right now, the time is 5:44. Doppler radar continues to indicate strong area of rotation moving through Stillwell, moving east-southeast at about 55 miles per hour. It is going to be crossing the Arkansas-Oklahoma state line in the next 10 to 12 minutes, and that's going to continue progressing off towards the west. It's going to eventually cross I-49. The question is, does it do it at Bobby Hopper Tunnel? Does it do it back towards Chester? It's going to be somewhere in that general vicinity, assuming it maintains its current path and trajectory. To me, it looks like it's taking a little bit more of an east-southeasterly track, but that can often change, even just a little bit. And that's why we watch scan by scan, hoping new data comes in and hoping it tells us the rotation's weakening. It hasn't done that yet. With every beam, every pass of the radar beam through that storm, haven't seen that yet. Still noticing that rotation. When you go back just looking at the rain mode, What does it look like there? I would actually venture to say that hook echo there is actually more pronounced now than it was just a few moments ago when we took a look last. So let's do this. Let's go back to our debris tracker. Not seeing anything there. That's some good news, at least for right now. I think the worst is probably now on the east side of Stillwell, closing in on that Arkansas-Oklahoma state line. It's running almost parallel with Oklahoma 51 right now. Let's go back to the rainbow. Let's show you what that looks like there, as we're a little bit closer now. 51 closing in on Morrow, Evansville on the Arkansas side. You need to be in your location, your safe location right now. This warning does include you. This storm is tracking your direction relatively quickly. You look at the rotation. Yep, there it is. Goodness, it's actually still just as pronounced as it was when you sample just the winds. Like, how fast are these winds rotating? Around 68 or so, still miles per, and that's a little bit more compact. It was the other thing I noticed too. Not only are those winds really fast for us this morning, but it's really compact, and that tells us that rotation may be trying to tighten up just a bit right here. 51 passing off towards the east-southeast. Closing in on that Arkansas-Oklahoma state line. Washington County included in this tornado warning. Crawford County included in this tornado warning. A lot of folks in Van Buren are rightfully a little anxious for you this morning. This storm right now, at least for this area of rotation specifically, does not appear to be tracking towards Van Buren, at least on its current track. Now, we'll have to watch the backside of that line. That is going to come through Van Buren at some point. Right now, it's a severe thunderstorm warning for wind and some small hail. We got to watch all of it to make sure we don't get another little kink like this one that develops along that leading edge where those winds are pushing out, starting to rotate as that kink develops. That's a possibility for us. We'll watch it very closely. We'll get you through it. I understand after everything you went through yesterday morning that you might be a little anxious this morning, and I hate that for all of us involved. Right now, this is the only area of rotation up and down this line. That rotation is continuing to push off towards the east-southeast. Warning goes until 6:15 this morning. Doppler radar continues to indicate some strong rotation. It's persistently there. With every scan, we're noticing that rotation. It's not weakening. I don't think it's necessarily strengthening either, staying those winds right around 68 or so miles per hour, but it isn't necessarily strengthening. That's at least some good news, and we're trying to look at this. Go back to the debris tracker. Do we see any additional debris? No, I don't see any being lofted up there right now. That's good news. We'll keep checking that. Go back into the rotation. What does that look like yet now? Still right there. That's going to be probably a mile, 2, 3 at most from the Oklahoma-Arkansas state line. So about, 4 miles right there from the Arkansas-Oklahoma state line. It is going to initially cross probably into Washington County. We're talking far southwestern Washington County, well to the south of Lincoln. But if you're in Uniontown, if you're in Natural Dam, you're included in this tornado warning. We'll go in a little bit closer for you to get some more of those towns to pop up on the map. Uniontown, Natural Dam included. Chester also included in this warning. Let's see, it doesn't look like Cedarville is. Cedarville is not included, but it is a little bit too close for comfort. We'll have to see how far southeast this thing wants to track. Mountainburg, I would definitely be paying very close attention to this specific cell, as it may try to skirt its way a little bit more towards the south. Here's going to be Highway 220. Here's Lee Creek. Barcelona right there. 59, of course, running up northwestern Crawford County. If you're living anywhere along Highway 59, let's say north of Natural Dam going up towards, let's say, Evansville, you definitely want to be in your safe location right now. This rotation continues. Very well could produce a tornado at any moment if it's not actually doing so right now. If it is, we'd probably see debris. We're in a place that's close enough to the radar that we do see some pretty decent signals. If there were any debris signatures showing up, we'd see it, and I'm not seeing it right now. We keep checking a lot, and the reason we're checking is because the rotation's strong enough that a tornado very well could be imminent at any moment with this specific cell. Joshua, I'm curious if we can turn Fayetteville Chamber of Commerce back off towards the southwest. If you get a chance to do that, it might be able to give us some overall structure. I think we're close enough we might be able to see that. Winslow included in this tornado warning as well. Rotation as we speak is going to be right on the state line. It's moving east-southeast at about 55 miles per hour. So it's moving somewhat quickly. That's, highway speed, right? Not interstate speed, highway speed. Quick enough that it's not going to give you a whole lot of time to take those tornado safety precautions. So perhaps your phone's gone off for you this morning. It says, hey, you're under a warning. Your NOAA weather radio has alerted you. You don't have a whole lot of time to go ahead and move to that innermost room in your home. You definitely have a wall of wind. We're looking at straight line winds, 60 to 70 miles per hour along the entire span of that line from northwest Arkansas into south central Oklahoma. And unfortunately, insult to injury, in addition to the straight line wind potential that this line's bringing, at times it kind of kinks up and provides some rotation, and that's what's happening right here. As of right now, this is the only area of rotation. We'll take a little bit of an area-wide reset here. Current time's 5:51 rather, and we are tracking a lot of storms moving through the area. You go up and down this line, and what you'll notice, that's the only one that has that big little kink. That's the one that has the rotation. That's the one that's currently tornado warned. That's why we're focusing a lot of our time on that one. While we're waiting on another scan to come in, we'll work our way up and down it. From Benton County, you've got a strong thunderstorm. It's not severe, actually. I know you're hearing a decent amount of lightning and thunder. You're getting a lot of rain out there, but it's not actually severe at the moment. We'll work our way down into Springdale and Fayetteville. I know there's a lot of folks camping out for the baseball game. You need to go ahead and seek sturdier shelter rather quickly. You've got another severe thunderstorm moving into your area. That severe thunderstorm warning does include portions of South Fayetteville. Minimally, you're going to get some very gusty winds out of it, some heavy rain that's going to last for a little bit. Lightning, of course, is going to be a bit of a danger. Here's the big bully right here that's now closing in southwestern Washington County, area of rotation, far southwestern Washington County. I do think this is moving east-southeast enough that it may try to skirt close to the Bobby Hopper Tunnel. The question is it try to move more east, or is it going to turn a little bit more towards the southeast? Inevitably, that's why Crawford County is included in this warning. Alma, Van Buren, not included in the tornado warning, at least as of right now. It looks to stay mostly to your north, but Natural Dam, Uniontown, Barcelona, you are included in that warning. We go a little bit further back into Sequoyah County. Sallisaw, you've got a strong thunderstorm moving through right now, damaging straight line winds. I've not seen a lot of rotation within that line. That's good news. Let's keep tracking it just to be on the safe side right now. Damaging straight line winds, maybe some small hail, definitely a lot of lightning coming out of these cells for you this morning. So if you were trying to sleep in this morning, I'm afraid Mother Nature probably had different plans for a lot of you. That is going to skirt into northern LaFleur County, Spiro, Panama, currently included in that severe thunderstorm warning. Right now it's just severe thunderstorm. Let's watch it really closely to make sure nothing tries to spin up onto that one. Let's do this. Let's go back into our cell that's now crossed into southwestern Washington County. It looks to me that it might be kind of speeding up a little bit. It's finally making a little bit of progress. It felt like it was sitting on top of Stillwell for a long time, but now we're getting a little bit further off towards the east. We're definitely in southwestern Washington County, south of Morrow right now, right along Arkansas 59. So we're in southwestern Washington County, rotation on top of Evansville right now. Good morning, everybody in Evansville. I hope you're in your safe location. A very strong area of rotation now passing right on top of Evansville, and that is going to be pushing off towards the east. Now, not only do you have a lot of rain out there with this cell, you've also got a lot of elevation, right? With all the mountains and all the valleys, it would be really tough to see through all of that if there was actually any potential tornado embedded within all that rain. Hard to say. Right now, we don't find any debris. In fact, it's probably going to be radar. Our best bet is, I don't know. That could be something right there. Joshua, what are you seeing on GR?
So our PTDS tool hasn't quite caught up with that latest update yet, but there is a little bit of a co-located drop there, so it's kind of hard to tell. Also, I wanted to mention too, while it's not necessarily an immediate risk, the next area that we need to be watching is closer to Lincoln, south of Highway 62. Looks to be, earlier there was a little bit of an inflow notch that was developing. It's struggling right now, but that is another area that looks like it's trying to get its act together, kind of sandwiched between Lincoln and Prairie Grove at this time. Normalize is starting to pick up on it. So starting to see what the Weather Service was saying, that the wind shear is a little bit more favorable suddenly for these. So we may need to be watching kind of up and down this line from the one that's or basically along and south of basically Prairie Grove and to the south, where we're seeing just a couple of these kinks, but nothing that stands out quite as much as this one near Dutch Mills.
Okay, yep, I see it. It's actually really easy to see. You're right. You're exactly right. Good job detecting that. Area of rotation right here along 62. We're 2 to 3 miles probably west of Prairie Grove, but you also have this area. This is the one that's produced the tornado back into Adair County, western Adair County. That's the one that actually has the tornado warning. We're going to have to watch this one really closely. Looks like they're canceling the Adair. They're continuing for Crawford and Washington. The storm has moved out of Adair. So folks in Adair County, Stillwell, the threat has passed. It is off to your east now. So if you were in your safe place, I can give you folks in Adair County the all clear. Rotation continues southwestern Washington County. You might see that warning polygon up. It flashes. That's just the Weather Service updating it. That's what that means. If you notice that they're updating the who's included, and perhaps they sometimes will update some other details such as storm speed, things of that nature. This looks to be our strongest area of rotation right now. As Joshua pointed out, there have been some other pockets, but in the latest scan, I think that other pocket's not as even concerning as it was, which would be some good news. Let's hope it trends that way. Here's the rotation right here, and we're pushing off towards the east-southeast. So we're going to be closing in. Here's the Bobby Hopper Tunnel right here. For those that are familiar with that, here's Winslow. If you're in Chester, Mountainburg, Winslow, I think you really need to be in your safe location right now. We may not have a tornado on the ground at this exact moment, but that doesn't mean that we might not in just a moment's notice. These things can and often do. They just spin up really quickly, and you get those debris signatures coming in a few scans later as the debris is being lofted. I don't see any of that right now. Okay, I don't see any debris, so I don't have any indication that there's a tornado in progress. But I certainly see strong rotation that could indicate that there very well could be at a moment's notice, and that's why we're wanting to give you this early heads up here this morning. Current speed on that still at 55.
Checking to see here too. I was also looking at the Slim Chickens camera. We got a view of the leading edge of this as it's making its way into the area, if we want to take that eventually. But it looks like the update still has about 55. It wouldn't surprise me if it's closer to 60 at this point, given just kind of how it surged into Washington County here the last couple scans.
Okay, I'm going to draw this out at 60, and even if it is at 55, at least this gives folks a few extra seconds of a heads up. Moving east-southeast, Big Scuffle Church, never heard of that one, 604. 86 Church, 608. Devil's Den State Park, 611. That's given me a lot of concern here this morning, Devil's Den, just because a lot of folks are camping out there this weekend. If you hear my voice at Devil's Den, let's really find those sturdy structures. I think they've got some restrooms. They've got because the visitor center may be open. I'm not quite sure. Let's just definitely move away from those trailers. You're going to have straight line winds coming, minimally. Blackburn 614. There's the tunnel right around that time of 616. Winslow at 621. Mount Gaylor at 623. Assuming this storm continues to track on its current location, on its current path and trajectory, which I believe it's going to, it will cross I-49. There's several cameras up through there. If we want to start looking at some of those RDOT cameras, probably not going to give us a lot of idea of what's happening right now, just given the hills and the valleys, but they'll probably give us a pretty decent idea once it gets a little bit closer to some of those traffic cameras out there. Here's where the rotation is. It's now pushing east of 59, and it is just maybe well, for all practical purposes, let's just say it's on the Washington-Crawford County line. It may be slightly more so in Washington County, but for all practical purposes, I think it's safe to say east of Evansville, right on the Crawford-Washington County line, right here. So we're tracking off towards the east relatively quickly, 55, perhaps as high as 60 miles per hour. It's not going to give folks a lot of time necessarily to take those tornado safety precautions. If you've been waiting, thinking, oh, maybe it'll weaken before it gets here, it hasn't. Still maintaining a pretty decent signal of that rotation. When you look at it just on the rain mode alone, it's probably going to give us that hook still. Yeah, that hook is still really pronounced right there. So that's going to be that leading bulge, that push of wind out there, and it's getting caught back into the storm, starting to spin. They got that little eddy developing right there on the leading edge of that squall line. This is where the rotation is going to be right now. And you notice where all that rain is? Exactly where the rotation is. It's going to be tough to see anything out there just through that. A lot of precipitation. You probably felt the humidity the last couple of days. A lot of that juice is in the air. You got a lot of rain. You got a lot of fog probably out there this morning. It's not something that I think you're really going to be able to step outside and necessarily see unless it's too late at that point. So let's go ahead and let's not wait to get visual confirmation. I don't think we're going to see a lot of visual confirmation. I think we'll probably just get damage reports after the fact if there actually is any. Here's Devil's Den State Park right here. Here's Blackburn. This storm's closing in on you really, really quickly. We need to be in those safe locations right now. Minimally, you've got some big winds coming your direction. I believe that's going to be impacting a lot of us. There very well could be some rotation as well. You look at some of those pixels there. We're at 57. Okay, it's not 68, which is what it was earlier. That's some good news. Let's hope that continues to be the case for us this morning. That Devil's Den State Park icon there, just for some reference, that's the visitor center. That's where I've got that icon located right there. Here's the tunnel right here, Crawford, Washington County line, just for some context, some local landmarks that you might be familiar with, whereas otherwise you might not know some of these locations in these towns. Those two might help guide you in the right direction. We'll take a look up and down this line as we need to do every so often. Josh was off air looking all up and down the line to make sure nothing else isn't trying to spin up on us. I stay focused on the most immediate threat, the tornado warning, but just know we've got eyes up and down this line, even though you might not see that happening on air. Right now, strong thunderstorm, Benton County, Washington County, severe in portions of South Fayetteville, heavy rain, lots of lightning, lots of thunder. That extends well back off towards the south. Sequoia County, LaFleur County, Crawford County also included in this severe thunderstorm warning. Right now, Fort Smith is not. Right now, Sebastian County not included in any warning. Hey, I think you're going to be included in a warning at some point, okay? It may be in the next few minutes as this line gets a little bit closer. Give it some time. More than likely, that's going to be the case. Circulation into southern Washington County remains strong and persistent. No obvious tornado signature, but of course could occur at any time given the strength and the depth of rotation. That's from the Weather Service over in Tulsa, and that certainly matches up with kind of what we've been looking at there. Also, I want to point this out to you. The reason we've been looking up and down that line, because we fear there very well could be some additional pockets of rotation develop. That's actually happened since we last checked the big picture here. That's happened back over towards McAllister. Not technically our viewing area, but it is going to be closing in our direction. And I point that out to you to say this. While we only are right now looking at this tornado warning in Washington and Crawford County, it's going to be tough to get by without any more before the morning's over, I'm afraid. The question really just becomes, where are they going to end up at? Let's for now go back into this specific warning right here. Southern Washington County. Looks like the rotation's pretty much going to be hugging that county line. Winslow, Chester, you really need to be in those safe locations right now. That's where the Doppler radar is indicating rotation's rather strong, and it very well could drop a tornado at any moment along Highway 170, 74, 71. Of course, if 49s there showing up, that'll give you a pretty good idea of where you might live in relation to that. That rotation's pretty much right on now on top of 220 and 170. Arkansas 220 and 170. See, there's northern Crawford County. This white line's the county line. Devil's Den's pretty much right here. Here's 170, and we're going to be right on top of that general vicinity as we speak. Should there be something trying to develop in this general vicinity, that's probably where it would be. I'm just curious what our rotation detector is checking.
And just real quick, there's a new little area that kind of is piquing my attention pretty quickly near Greenland.
Okay.
And if you look to the north of the banner, it's a little bit stronger rotation popping up here quickly. The other thing, too, starting to see a couple of these little stinger hooks along the leading edge, one near Greenland, one near West Fork, and these are near I-49. So my fear is that we're going to start eventually seeing more areas to the north rotate. These have been rotating for the last little bit, but that one near Greenland is looking a little bit more impressive over the last 2 or 3 scans.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out. So not Doppler radar indicated, not even tornado warned at this point. We're kind of just looking way ahead as much as we can. They might give you an idea that, hey, something could be coming down the pike over the next few minutes. So we call that Greenland there. Nothing happening right now, no tornado warning. Looking at a little bit of rotation through town. It's weak rotation. You'd be surprised to know how much rotation passes through, but it's always weak. and there's never any warnings that are issued. Let's hope that's the case for us there in Greenland. You don't need anything else. You've had too much this spring as is. I look back here into southern Washington County where we do have this one tornado warning. That rotation is starting to kind of fan out a little bit. It's not as compact, it's not as tightly spinning as it once was. You still find some strong winds, no question about it. You've got some damaging straight line winds coming out of that cell, but you don't find those reds and those greens spinning as tightly as they were. You know, you don't trust a storm ever around these parts. It may just be a part of the storm's life cycle. It may just be pulsing up and pulsing down. We don't know the question. We don't know what it's doing necessarily with regards to what it's trying to do. All we can know is it got some rotation. It has produced a tornado. It may try to pulse back up, is what I'm poorly trying to get to. It may try to tighten back up, and unfortunately that's a real concern, which poses a threat for folks in Winslow this morning, currently included in this tornado warning. Northern Crawford County remains in the warning. Right now things are tracking mostly in the Washington County side. Now if you're in northern Crawford County, Chester specifically, I would like you to stay put. I'd like you to stay in your safe location. Joshua, do you have any RDOT cameras over there? The Bobby Hopper Tunnel is probably a bad one. I bet it's all covered up in rain and fog, but there might be one just towards the north there. There might be a couple actually along I-49. Now would be the time to check out some of those.
Yeah, checking some. Clear Creek Bridge, not any sort of severe view, but you can see just how humid it is. Just a lot of condensation and scud. Going to see if we can see anything going through there here momentarily, but it doesn't look like it's quite made it to those cameras yet.
Okay, cool, thank you. Looking back in the rotation, strong winds coming through 170. Here's 170 right here. Here's Arkansas 74. Here's I-49. Bobby Hopper Tunnel is going to be right here, where my finger's at, right here. Winslow, for some context, right here. That storm is moving almost due east at this point. One point, it was looking a little more east-southeast. Now I'm thinking right now it's currently tracking a little bit more just due east, which is going to keep the bulk of this cell in Washington County. That would give some comfort to folks in Crawford County, but let's just hold tight before we totally let our guard down in Crawford County. Thing can obviously turn back towards the southeast pretty quickly with time. Right now, though, I think it's closing in on Winslow. Winslow, my concern is for you right now. I really would like you to be in your safe location as we look into some of the rotation here. It's not the strongest of rotation, but it is persistent. And when there are persistent signals like that showing up in the radar, it's certainly something to be mindful of. I look into the debris tracker a lot. I've got the radar saying, hey, show me what's not supposed to be up there. Of course, we know hail and we know rain. That's supposed to be detected at the radar beam level. What I'm telling the radar to do with this debris tracking tool is, hey, give me a heads up if there's things that don't look like rain and don't look like hail up in the atmosphere. Right now, it's not detecting anything like that. That's why I go back and forth to that product a lot, just for some context as to kind of what we're looking at. I want to know if there's things that are not up there. That would indicate a tornado on the ground. I don't see that right now. I definitely see strong damaging winds, a good signal of some rotation. Here's this little kink in the line. This isn't the classic hook echo that we often see in those discrete supercells, but it is a bit of a hook. It's a notching area, and it is co-located with where the rotation is, and that's why you got to take this really seriously. That's the prompt for the warning out there. That's the reason for concern, and that's the reason that I'm asking you to take care of yourself this morning. If you're in Winslow, especially right now along I-49, that's not going to be a good place to be traveling in Washington County, anywhere in Washington County along I-49, just given that severe thunderstorm warning, but certainly between, let's say, Chester and Winslow through the Bobby Hopper Tunnel up towards Winslow, not a good time to be on I-49 this morning. Rotation right now would be right on top of Devil's Den State Park right now. That is exactly where it is. It's moving closer and closer to Blackburn. By the time you hear my voice through the internet and through the television signal, it's probably on top of Blackburn, just given how quick this is moving, 55 to 60 miles per hour. Not exactly the slowest of storms, not the fastest, but it's not going to give you a lot of lead time. If you're just now joining us in Winslow, maybe your phone has alerted you to the tornado warning. Perhaps your NOAA weather radio is going off and you're trying to wake up and you're thinking, okay, Scott, what's going on? Here's what's going on. Here's the high level input. You've got a tornado warning tracking your direction, rotation right on top of Devil's Den State Park. It is pushing off towards the east, and right now that rotation is likely going to be tracking into Winslow over the next couple of minutes. Let's put a track on it for you and give you the very latest estimated times of arrival. New tornado warning, it looks like, has been extended a little bit further towards the east, and that the reason that was issued for northern Crawford, southern Washington, is the Weather Service is seeing the storm and they're saying, you know what, this thing's not weakening quick enough. So that's that new box right there. New tornado warning, southern Washington, northern Crawford County. Here's the rotation right here, closing in on Winslow. Joshua, this still at 55?
Let's see, I'm checking here real quick, and I believe that they're going to go ahead and keep the, looks like they reduced it to about 45 miles an hour.
Okay, moving a little bit slower. So let me back that up. 40 miles per hour. Storm is slowing down just a little bit. So Devil's Den State Park right now, Bobby Hopper Tunnel in the next 2 to 3 minutes. Winslow at 619, Mount Gaylor 620, Miller's Chapel 624, Bedville at 630, Community of Brannon at 633, Crosses Creek Church there at 634. That gives you an idea of how long you got, which for many folks isn't very long at all. Let's go ahead and just not wait it out. Let's just take those tornado safety precautions. Let's just assume that this thing isn't going to weaken anymore and that it is going to be tracking your direction. I don't see anything. I'm looking at a lot of cameras off air, our extensive camera network. I'm not seeing any lowerings out there, but I'm acutely aware this is going to be really tough to see through all that rain. It's going to be tough to see through the hills and the valleys. This, I'll just tell you just for some context, storm chasers don't storm chase here because you just can't see anything. And that's the reality of what we're going to be seeing out there this morning, just given the topography of what we're looking at. What we can do is we can see what radar shows us, and it shows us a very pronounced hook right now moving into Winslow. Rotation's still there. It's not as tight as it was, but it's still there, persistently still right there. And that's why that warning was issued and continues to be in effect for southern Washington, northern Crawford County. The new warning comes close to Mountainburg, but it does not include Mountainburg. Maybe if you live on the outskirts of town to the north side, you might find yourself in this warning. But it really looks like this area rotation. I'll circle it for you just so you have an idea visually of where it's at. That's going to be moving almost, it's just trying to run parallel with the county line there, Crawford, Washington county line. Inevitably, that's going to move it over towards Madison, Franklin, but we're still in the high elevations right here. Still going to be somewhat tough to see. Probably passes close, but probably towards the north of Fern. Yep.
Let's take the iDrive camera here real quick. Just in the last couple minutes, notice the rain uptick, but we just got some pretty gnarly winds there, actually rocking the camera back and forth there right now as that storm's starting to move through. And noticing cars are starting to slow down, maybe even...
Obviously, that's not at Weddington Drive. I've not had a chance to update it. Let me do that real quick.
Yeah, look at these winds. Noticing traffic starting to slow down pretty dramatically, and the camera looks to be rocking pretty good there. As the storm's getting pretty close.
Yeah, that probably is exactly where that rotation is right now. So this is going to be, remind me which camera this one, the name of this one?
So this is mile marker 39.
Okay.
And I believe this is right in the middle of the polygon.
Okay, and we're looking towards the north, just for some context. Headlights there, folks traveling south back towards the Bobby Hopper Tunnel. Just a couple of folks out there. Boy, it'd be a really, really rough morning to be out in the middle of this. This is the straight line winds, very well could be a rain-wrapped tornado right now. Not seeing debris lends me to believe it's probably straight line winds. It's hard to tell. You just can't tell with that much precipitation out there. You just have to wait for the damage reports to come in. Nonetheless, there's some strong rotation moving through. So whether the winds are blowing straight or whether they're spinning, they're blowing, right? And that's the key takeaway. Damage is damage, no matter if it's a spinning wind or a straight line wind. And this is a live look into the heart of that storm right now, where it is likely the strongest that we've seen. And that, unfortunately, is a pretty treacherous morning out there along I-49. You always hope that the folks traveling out there, those truckers especially, you hope they had a heads up that they knew what they were driving into. Some of them, might have just been trying to enjoy a peaceful Sunday morning and getting caught off guard out there. We'll take an area-wide reset. Here's the big picture. You notice you have warnings all up and down this line. There is a lot of lightning. I mean, goodness gracious, it's just electric all up and down it. That is going to produce a lot of thunder. You're going to hear it. These storms are going to be loud out there this morning. You've got flood warnings in Washington, Benton, Madison, portions of Carroll County. Orange here is going to be your severe thunderstorm warnings. Those pretty much span all the way from Fayetteville back towards McAllister. There are 2 tornado warnings right now, only one of which is in our viewing area. The second is going to be closer to McAllister. We're going to have to watch that closely as it is very well on track to move into LaFleur County. Right now, the only storm that we've got rotation coming out of is the one that's in Washington. And it's right there on the border of Washington and Crawford County, southern Washington, northern Crawford County. You got that bulge that right there, that hook right there, right now in Winslow. That's why we've got so much of a concern right there. Here's the thing, rotation is going to be broadly in this general vicinity now in Winslow. Most of the town's probably experiencing that rotation. But even on the leading edge of this Boeing segment right here, that Boeing segment only develops when there's a big push of straight line winds. Think of it like this. If you missed my analogy earlier, imagine you've got a bathtub, right? And you just run your hand through it and you get those little kinks that develop, those little eddies, those little suction vortices. That's what's happening out there. Here's the hand moving through. Here's that big push of wind coming out of the leading edge of that line. And right here in Winslow, in that hook, that's where you've got that little vortex that's trying to develop. Whether or not it's actually producing a tornado on the ground, it remains to be seen. The rotation has persistently been there. This storm has produced a tornado earlier back in Adair County. The radar did detect debris as that happened. We've been looking at debris tracker as this has moved into Washington, portions of Crawford County there, and we've not noticed any. You look at it really closely, and we're just not seeing anything out there right now. Current time is 6:15. This warning is going to run through 6:30, so we got 15 more minutes with it. Chester, Bidville, Winslow is included in this warning. Right now, the rotation is in Winslow, and it is pushing off towards the east. So folks in Bidville, you might want to be mindful of this, especially if you live north of Bidville. Now, I know we're in the beautiful Ozark Mountains out there. It may not be a lot of folks, but those that do live there are really important to me, so we want to track this very closely for you. This is going to be pushing off towards the east, so you take a little bit bigger picture. Who's going to be next in line? Where is this storm going? That's what we want to tell you this morning. St. Paul, which is included now in a new severe thunderstorm warning. As this storm moves through, heads up. Cass, folks at Turner's Bend, Birds Adventure Center. I know there's probably a lot of folks out there this weekend. This storm is going to be coming close to that general vicinity. You're now included in a severe thunderstorm warning, primarily for damaging straight line winds, but obviously this line is going to be capable of producing these quick spin ups. We've seen some other pockets of rotation. Those have not developed into anything as of yet. That's good news. Let's hope that continues to be the case. The rotation here on the Crawford, Washington County line, it's really weakening. And that's the good news. Weather Service is telling me off air that the reason that they've gone ahead and issued a severe thunderstorm warning in advance of this actual area of rotation, in advance of this pocket, is because they're not anticipating issuing a new tornado warning unless it pulses back up. So assuming that this trend continues, that the rotation is starting to weaken a little bit there, and they're going to let that warning expire at 6:30. There's a lot of time between now and then for things to change. So we'll stick here until the threat's entirely passed. That's, of course, our promise to you. That severe thunderstorm warning is including a lot of folks. Alma, Van Buren, you've got strong winds moving through your neck of the woods right now, if not likely over the next couple of minutes. Fort Smith, you're not under any warnings at all, but goodness, you probably will be at any second. I suspect they're going to have to issue a warning. You look at that crisp, well-defined line extending from Muldrow through Cedarville, all that pushing towards the east-southeast. That's going to be a good surge of some straight line winds out of there. You very well could see maybe a little bit of some hail, generally penny to nickel size. But for more often than not, when you look at a line like that, a crisp line like that, that's going to be your straight line winds coming into the Fort Smith area right now. I'm looking at some of our cameras over there. I'm not seeing anything of necessarily interest. A lot of rain, so it's going to be tough to see a lot of things out there. LaFleur County, let's talk about folks here in Sequoia and LaFleur County. You've got a strong thunderstorm moving through, severe thunderstorm warning. Northern LaFleur County and now parts of western LaFleur County included in 2 different severe thunderstorm warnings. The hazards with both of those are going to be damaging straight line winds, maybe some small hail, generally less than an inch in diameter. Winds are going to be the big concern we've got. Oftentimes when you get a squall line like this, winds are the predominant most likely hazard, and that remains the case all up and down this specific line. 2 tornado warnings, only one of which is currently in our viewing area. That's going to be the one hugging that Crawford Washington County line, the other one back towards McAllister. I point that out to the folks in LaFleur County. Poto, heads up, it's a ways away, and let's hope it weakens before it gets into LaFleur County. But this booger right here in this red box, that's that tornado warning, and it is tracking off towards the east, so it very well could be moving into your neck of the woods. Let me put a track on that just to give you a general idea of about how long you've got before that cell moves in. Again, not our viewing area right now, but it is going to be tracking into an area that's important to us. That would put it, let's say, Red Oak 640, McCurtain 646, Fanshawe 652, Kavanaugh Hill there 705, Worcester 705, Poto 709, Cameron at 715, Heavener at 720. My hope for us is that it'll weaken, that rotation will drop off before it gets there. We'll keep you posted. We'll keep checking in back on that cell. Right now, the one cell in the Channel 5 viewing area that does maintain a tornado warning is the one that's coming in closer and closer to Bidville. It just passed through Winslow. Some very strong winds right now happening in Mount Gaylor, still happening along I-49. Things are slowly but surely improving for you at the state park there at Devil's Den. If you're at Devil's Den and you did seek shelter, let's stay put there for just a little bit longer, about 5 or so more minutes. You're still going to have some good rain out there and some gusty winds, but I think the worst will probably have passed you at that point. Rotation's very broad, very, very broad right here. That hook's not nearly as defined as it once was, which is a positive sign, but I don't want you to mistake my hope that this trend continues for an all clear. I'm not giving you the all clear just yet. Rotation's there enough. It's weaker, and it's certainly not near as organized as it was. My hope is that this will continue fanning out, really becoming more broad, likely going to be transitioning over into more of a damaging wind threat. That wind potential right now, east of 71, here's Hazel Valley, here's Brentwood. You probably know where those folks are. If you live in this area, you kind of know those landmarks there. Here's the Brandon community, and this is going to be Delaney right here, Mountain Crest right here, just for some reference. We're up in the beautiful Ozark Mountains, really tough to see between those valleys and those hills. Now you add in all the rain. It'd be really tough to see any wall cloud or funnel, or if there was a tornado on the ground, and I don't believe there is right now. I believe that rotation is weakened to an extent that it would be tough to get a tornado out of what's happening right at this moment. The question is, does it continue that trend of weakening, or does it try to tighten back up and spin back up? That's what we don't know. So we track it very closely until we know that this for sure is going to die out, and that's not the case right now. You do have some strong winds up and down that line. In fact, when you look at just wind velocities, that's going to be the primary focal point from Fayetteville back all the way down towards, let's say, Fanshawe, Bekoshi, getting into LaFleur County, all up and down into Sequoia County. Strong winds moving through the area, heavy rain. We've not talked a lot about the flash flooding potential, but that is something we've seen. That's something that's happening right now across a good chunk of Washington and Benton County. Flood warning is in effect. These storms have produced rainfall rates of 2 to 4 inches an hour. So you're dumping a lot of rain. Ground's pretty saturated, right? It's not going to have a lot of time for that rain to absorb into the ground, so it's just going to start to run off. And that's where you start to see the creeks rise. That's where you start to see ponding on roadways. Hydroplaning becomes a concern. That's happening all while we focus on areas of rotation. One of the things that I'm noticing here that I don't necessarily love is when we look at the rain mode there, that kink's starting to come together a little bit more again. It was trying to fan out earlier, but it looks like it may be trying to tighten back up. What's the rotation tell us? We look at our wind velocities, and it's not tightening up there yet. But one of the things we noticed yesterday as we were tracking that storm coming into Crawford County is at one point tracking out of Oklahoma into Arkansas, the rotation didn't look all that impressive. But when you looked at the rain mode, you kind of saw that hook that was kind of tightening back up. That was a precursor to what inevitably became the tornado that we saw yesterday. So is that what's happening here? I don't know. I just share some context as some recent history as, yeah, this thing is weakening overall, but still at sometimes it's trying to tighten back up and show some signs of maybe trying to reorganize. So I don't trust it. I want us to stay put if we're in Bedville right now. I'd like you to stay in those safe locations if you could for a little bit longer. I want to point something out to you down here. I've been focused on this cell that's coming out of, let's say, the McAllister area. A new tornado warning does include a very small sliver of LaFleur County, but an important sliver there to us. You're going to notice right here that storm is coming out of the Wilburton area. Red Oak is included in this new tornado warning. Fanshawe is, well, about half the town is included in that tornado warning, and that's certainly something that I want you folks in Fanshawe to be aware of. Worcester, Poteau, Heavener, not currently included in it. You're down the line though, so let's stay focused if you're in those communities there. That could be tracking your direction. Now, I'd like to get back to Washington, Crawford County, because I do have some positive news to pass along. This warning is going to be canceled early. It appears they're going to expire that warning, canceling it for Crawford and Washington County. So it may take a few more minutes for this one to fall off, but the Weather Service is saying, hey, that rotation is weakened. Right now, the damaging wind threat continues, but at least the rotation here would be near Bedville is weakened below the threshold needed to maintain that tornado warning. With that not happening right now, they're going to allow that warning to fall off. It'll take a couple of minutes. There's that red box, right? It'll drop off. Now, keep in mind that while the tornado warning is going to drop off, we've still got a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for a lot of folks here from Winslow to Bedville, St. Paul, good chunk of Franklin County, well, a good chunk of Crawford County, including Mountainburg, including Alma and Van Buren. You're included in that severe thunderstorm warning that's primarily being driven by the potential of some straight line winds. When we kind of zoom out on the southern flank of this line, that's now moving into Fort Smith. Rain's starting to pick up there in Fort Smith. Rain's now picking up in Alma. The winds are picking up there in Alma and Van Buren as well. There's a lot of lightning and there's a lot of thunder, but there's no rotation in that part of the cell. If that changes, of course, we're going to be the first to let you know. But right now, I want you to have some comfort to know that, well, yeah, it's a strong to severe thunderstorm. It is a severe thunderstorm. There's not any rotation coming out of that segment of the cell, at least as of this moment. Let's hope that continues to be the case. We'll work our way a little bit further off towards the south. Here's Bellefonte. Here's Muldrow. Intense rain, heavy rain. Look at all that lightning. My goodness, that's going to be near constant lightning out there, spanning all the way back towards Spiro there in northern LaFleur County. Bacola, you're not in a warning yet, but I suspect you're going to be here relatively soon. I've been waiting for that Sebastian County warning to be issued, and it hasn't yet. You do have a strong storm moving through. Everything else is severe thunderstorm warning, so I suspect at some point they'll probably end up issuing an additional warning for those folks there in Fort Smith. Now, I know we often have a lot of flooding issues for those of us in Fort Smith. I'm afraid this is probably going to result in some of those classic flooding issues that we often see around the Fort Smith area, just given how slow this portion of the line is moving, how much rain is falling out of it. Here's Arcoma. Good folks there at Arcoma Emergency Management. Good morning to you folks. I know you're online keeping your community safe. Here's Mercy Hospital. Here's Caroline Cross Park. Here's Creekmore Park. Here's the Baptist Health Hospital there, southwest side of town there. Rain's moving into that part of the area, not currently at Mercy, not currently at Caroline Cross, but with that latest scan, of course, you can see it getting a little bit closer into there for us. So that rain's going to continue picking up. A lot of reds there tell us it's some pretty heavy rain, and I wouldn't even at all be surprised if there's not some pockets of some small hail in there. What size could we potentially be looking at? Generally, probably penny or less with this cell. There's not a lot of storm instability at the upper levels of the atmosphere to support much larger size hail, but you find some pockets here through Dora, perhaps some of those hailstones making its way through the Van Buren area. When you kind of ask the radar, hey, how big are those? It's probably going to tell us right around penny or so. Yeah, penny size right there. Penny size right there. You get back in this other cell south of Muldrow, maybe we're closer to quarter size with that one. A little small pocket of hail right there on the Sequoia-LaFleur County line. South of Muldrow, north of Spiro, actually just right on top of the river. That's exactly where that is, right on top of the river right there. So let's keep that in mind as well, in addition to the other hazards that we're tracking for you this morning. Heavy rain, you might at times have a little bit of some small hail mixing in. We'll go back into the radar mode. You'll take a look up and down this line. Everything in southeastern Oklahoma, eastern Oklahoma is a bit less, let's say, well-defined. It gets a little bit more messy out here. You've got some clusters of some thunderstorms, but nonetheless, this one coming out of Wilburton is producing enough rotation that we do have a tornado warning, and it does include a small portion of western Leflore County. Fanshawe, part of town, is included in that warning, and that is going to be tracking off towards the east. If it doesn't weaken, it will impact places such as Worcester and Heavener. Hard to say about Poto. It'll be really close for comfort. That rotation is kind of messy. It's kind of tough to pick out from the Fort Smith radar side. Right now, it would be pretty much right on top of Wilburton, right here. So we got anybody watching in Wilburton, heads up. You've got that going, and that is going to be tracking towards Red Oak and eventually into western Leflore County. That's going to be the only ongoing tornado warning we've got at this moment in our viewing area. We'll stay put here for these other cells. Okay, there it is. Well, it's still there. That Crawford, Washington County warning was allowed to expire. They're expiring it early. It just may take a little bit. It may take about one more minute. It was initially set to expire at 6:30. I assume once that, the computer's going to say, okay, I'll kick it out. A lot going on out there. There's so much going on to this radar picture. It may be kind of just psychedelic to look at, and you're thinking, goodness gracious, help me make some sense of all this mess. It is a mess, I'll grant you that. A lot of lightning out there, near constant lightning, so you're hearing a lot of thunder. These sounds, these storms have a lot of bark out there, and at times they do have a little bit of bite. You've got severe warnings, now including all of Madison County. We've got straight line winds around 60 miles per hour coming into Madison County. Those are exiting Washington County, so if you're in Washington County, the worst of the storm is now past, but it's moving into Madison County. It's going to be moving into the northern half of Franklin County as well. Here's Huntsville, here's going to be Hinesville, here's going to be Japton. Did get a report of some damage, some wind damage in Japton yesterday. That cell right now very well could be capable of producing enough wind that you might see a little bit more of that. That's almost moving due east, so Pettigrew, heads up, you're going to be included in the path of that storm, as well as Boston, St. Paul as well. Anywhere up and down the Pig Trail. This storm is going to be pretty much right on top of the Pig Trail in the next 10 minutes or so. It extends down into northern Franklin County. Here's going to be the interstate. Here's I-40. Here's Ozark for reference. Ozark North is included in this severe thunderstorm warning. The reason it's been issued is for the potential of 60-mile-per-hour winds. At times, you might see a little bit of small hail mixing in there, but I'm really not seeing a lot in the way of hail out there. It's going to be a lot of heavy rain. It's going to be some gusty winds. That's the primary hazards associated with this storm right now. Got to watch the rotation tracker really closely. This line very well could try to spin up something else. It has already this morning. No reason that it couldn't still. So we want to track rotation as often as we can. Josh was working behind the scenes to check up and down the line as I work on this here as well. Things are pretty intense for those of us in Van Buren and Alma right now. Dyer, Kibler, Mulberry, and you're getting that storm now moving into the Mulberry area. Expect those winds to get really breezy for about 10 or 12 minutes. Slowly they're going to let up, but the rain, the lightning, the thunder, that's going to continue for a little bit. Be mindful of that, okay? Fort Smith here. Okay, we got a couple of warnings actually for Sequoia County, portions of the floor that have actually been dropped. So right now the storm coming into Fort Smith, the greater Fort Smith area, is not actually severe. That's some good news for us. It's a strong storm. A strong storm for sure. You got some heavy rain. That's going to give us some flooding concerns. But right now the winds have fallen below that severe weather threshold. So that's why there's not a warning with that segment of the cell coming through. Let's hope that continues to be the case and doesn't change for us. Now we get into Leflore County and we do have some strong winds coming out of the cell. It's now near Wilburton. That is not going to include Tallahena, but Fanshawe is included in portion of this warning. You'll look at the rotation tracker here. You got some high winds coming out, those really bright blues and greens. That's going to be the radar telling us, hey dude, you got some strong winds, 60 to 70 miles per hour. I'll tell you, the rotation, boy, it's just not very well pronounced. It's there. Something tells me what you're seeing pulse up on the screen here is a new severe thunderstorm warning. I have a feeling that the Weather Service may allow that severe thunderstorm warning to replace the tornado warning. They typically will tell me that that's what they're thinking, and they've not told me that just yet, so I don't want to put words into their mouth. But with the rotation there and Wilburton is disorganized as it is, let's hope that continues, and that track would be good for us. It still isn't going to mean we don't have a strong storm coming through, because we certainly are in portions of western Leflore County. But that is going to track over to Heavener, and eventually Poto probably is going to see some strong storms as well. Poto is not included in any current warning. I'll take a look at the Poto camera there at the hospital. Nothing necessarily of interest right there. Storm is going to be just to the north. Picola, my goodness, you've got okay, there it is. I was wondering about that. I thought, goodness, this sure looks severe to me. New severe thunderstorm warning for portions of Sebastian County, including all of Fort Smith, all of Greenwood. It includes portions of LaFleur County, including Picola, Spiro, portions of southeastern Sequoia County as well. The reason this warning has been issued, this is going to be 60-mile-per-hour winds as well. Right now, those winds are probably picking back up in Picola and Barling. Here's Chaffee. Of course, here's Fort Smith right here. Those are going to be tracking off towards the east. Lavaca pretty much might as well be included in the warning. Part of town is. All of Greenwood is. This is going to be 60-mile-per-hour straight line winds coming out of this cell. On top of that, you're going to have some really heavy rain, probably a lot of frequent lightning and thunder as well. Back towards Spiro, that continues to be the case. You look at some of these wind velocities, and you start to notice some brighter colors. And while it sounds so elementary, the brighter colors is the way of the radar telling us, hey, you've got some really gusty winds. Let's just pick out a few. I'm not going to cherry pick. I'm just going to kind of go randomly. What do we got there? Closer to the radar side. I'm seeing a lot of 30s and 40s, and to be honest, it's a little surprising. I expected to see some higher amounts there. The question becomes, what is it translating to at the ground? Sometimes the radar could detect some lower winds, but when those winds are getting pushed to the ground, they are much faster. And that's probably what's happening out there. Of course, we've got the radar site there. We've got the weather sensor at the Fort Smith Airport. Josh, if you want to keep an eye on that, see what those winds are measuring. This storm's probably actually moving in near the airport right now as we speak. It's going to be just to the north right there of the radar site. If you ever pass the radar, you can always see it south side of Fort Smith there. I always like to see it, but I'm just a nerd. So here it is. Radar is detecting that line of storms moving into the area. Greenwood, quiet right now. But that storm's moving your direction, Lavaca as well. That new severe thunderstorm warning is probably going to run until, let's see, boy, they're issuing a whole bunch. A while. Let's just go with a while. Actually, I can tell you. I know how to do this. That warning is going to be until 7 o'clock this morning. Okay, that's the one to the south. Let me go back up to this other one. The Sebastian County severe thunderstorm warning. That storm's moving quick. That's moving really quick. 7:15. Okay, that's good news there. It's picking up some speed, and you can see that storm progression really coming together there as it crosses the Oklahoma-Arkansas state line. One of the things to note there that I'm also seeing is a little bit of an appendage right here. I want to take a look at rotation, make sure there's not trying to be anything spinning up right there. There's not. There's nothing spinning up right there, but you notice that little, it almost looks like a little bit of a hook right in this general vicinity. Let's watch that, Joshua. I know you will. I know you are over there. That's going to be near Panama. Getting close to Lavaca there as well. Time now 6:36. We have a large line of severe thunderstorms moving across a good chunk of the 5 News viewing area. In fact, we just got a brand new large severe thunderstorm warning, which does include Johnson, portions of Logan County. It does include portions of Newton County, which is not our viewing area, but perhaps if we have anyone that's from our viewing area that may be over on the river this morning. Actually, we did receive a few messages wondering about the weather for folks going to be floating the river. You got a strong severe thunderstorm moving your direction. Right now, the primary concern is going to be those straight line winds up to about 60 or so miles per hour. That's the primary issue with that specific cell right now. So let's see. Joshua, are you online?
Yes.
Okay. Seeing anything over there?
Not at the moment. We've been scanning up and down this line.
Okay.
Really no rotation pockets, nothing unnormalized. It just looks like we're, thankfully, as of now, just transitioning over to more of a damaging wind potential. So hopefully that remains the case. We don't see any more. I do think that the training storms that are going to be into portions of Crawford and Sebastian County, we may start to see Maybe some flash flood warnings potentially down the line, just because there's a lot of rainfall there. Of course, don't know what the Weather Service is going to do, but just a lot more rainfall kind of on the way into portions of the river valley. And of course, we got those flood-prone areas that always typically flood when there's even just a little bit of rainfall. So be mindful for that flooding risk as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's do a big picture. What's the environment going to support? There's a lot of colors here. There's a lot going on out there this morning. Let's walk through some of this. The entire 5 News viewing area is under a tornado watch. For most folks, that's going to expire at 7 o'clock. Some of those counties that are going to be dropped are going to be from the west to the east. That will happen as this line progresses. The Weather Service will drop some of those with time. Orange is here. That's going to be our severe thunderstorm warning. Red is going to be our tornado warning. That one is just to the west of LaFleur County. That is going to be tracking off towards the east. Rotation's relatively weak right there. These maroon colors, that's actually going to be a flood warning, and we do have a pretty expansive flood warning that includes Fayetteville, Springdale, portions of Lowell, Cave City, back towards the west near Siloam Springs. We had a storm move through early this morning, and for the folks there in Northwest Arkansas, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It was really, really loud, and that storm likely is continuing to produce some rain. The ones we got there right now, you add all that up together, and we certainly have the potential of some flooding ongoing. That's why that flood warning continues. It does include Huntsville, Hinesville, Clifty as well, and northern Madison County. So you're going to want to see those waters recede. That's going to happen with time, especially as the backside of this storm is now starting to clear Northwest Arkansas. Things are going to be drying out in Benton County here in the next 5 or so minutes. Give it a little bit longer in Washington County, but with time, this storm is moving off towards the east out there, and that's going to be some good news for us. It's just going to take a little bit longer. That new severe thunderstorm warning now includes the rest of Logan County. You can see that's going to be filling in right here. It looks like we'll probably end up seeing a severe thunderstorm warning for probably southern Franklin. This whole line is going to end up being warned. The reason there's a gap here, it gets kind of silly, and you probably know about this. We've tracked so many of these storms this spring. Weather Service out of Little Rock takes care of Johnson, Logan, and Scott counties. Weather Service out of Tulsa takes care of everything back off towards the west. And so sometimes it takes them a second or two to get on the same page. So just because you're kind of in between warnings here, you may think that's like, well, that's kind of trivial, right? And it is. I grant you that. Just know this. You're probably going to all be under a severe thunderstorm warning here in the next few minutes. We kind of saw that coming out of Fort Smith, right? Poto, we're continuing to see that storm get closer and closer. Western LaFleur County. Now, Sequoia County, southeastern Sequoia County, near the Fort Smith, let's say the river bottom's right in there. You're included in this warning, but for the most part, the worst is now passing over into the Arkansas side of things. Muldrow is still included in this severe thunderstorm warning right now, just for that 60-mile-per-hour wind potential. There's going to be Foreman. There's going to be the casino right here. Of course, you've got I-40 just as a landmark right there. Anyone traveling west or east along I-40 between, let's just say, Webbers Falls and Fort Smith right now, if you could, you might want to give it a few extra minutes to kind of get where you're going. If you can wait it out, it may not be a bad idea. This line is tracking off towards the east, which with time is going to see things clear up. There may still be some rain showers, as you can see back off towards Tulsa, right, into parts of Oklahoma that are going to be tracking our direction. But the key takeaway really is the worst of this cell, the worst of this line is progressing off towards the east. The northern flank doing so a little bit quicker, so we'll have to watch that southern flank that's kind of digging its heels from Fort Smith back into LaFleur County. That's where that flooding concern is going to be a little bit higher, just because this half of the cell is moving much slower. So we're going to be dumping a lot of rain over the same amount of locations for a longer period of time. That's of a concern for me. There's something else that I've seen here over the last couple of minutes that I don't necessarily like, and I'd like to take a little bit closer look into that. You can kind of see a little bit of a notching segment right there, just south of Chaffee. Just for some context, here's 96 and 22 where the giant Budweiser can is. Probably 4 to 5 miles, maybe a little bit closer to 10. Let me see that. About 5 miles west of Highway 96. A little bit of a notch right there, not far from the Doppler radar, so we might actually be so close to the radar, we're not going to see a lot of rotation in that. That's an interesting little signature right there. Let's keep an eye on that, Josh. Was there any NROT showing up over there? right near the radar site.
So this is a little bit tricky in this area just because it looks like that normalized, still kind of the cone of silence until we get to Lavaca and Greenwood, at least on this. So still kind of within that cone of silence. I think once we get to Greenwood proper, we're going to start to see that show up. But right now, unfortunately, in that cone of silence.
Sure. Other good news I will pass along to you while we're kind of waiting on some more data to come in there. The tornado warning that's currently in Latimer County, it does include portions of western LaFleur. Weather Service is saying that rotation is so weak at this point, they do not have plans to extend that tornado warning any further east unless it pulses back up. But current trends are in our favor. For those of us in LaFleur County, current trends are indicating that that rotation is going to continue to weaken out there. So right now, I really want to focus back in on this cell right here. I'll tell you, I'm not seeing a lot in the way of rotation, but you kind of get that little bit of a notching feature right there. There's kind of another one back off towards the south there. Two little distinct little eddies right there. We're not finding a lot of rotation in either of those, but if history tells us anything, sometimes that can change really quickly. And just given the overall presentation of kind of how things look on radar mode right here, I'll kind of circle those areas of concern for you. North of Greenwood right here, you got kind of another little pocket right over here. Not saying there's anything happening right there. I'm just kind of telling you, just being transparent with kind of what's in the back of my head. Seeing some signals like that, one of those early indicators that maybe something could be trying to eventually come together. I don't want to alarm anyone necessarily, but I do want to give folks a heads up as early as possible. This is going to be just to the north of Greenwood right here, north of Greenwood, and that is going to be tracking almost east-southeast, so it is going to include impact portions of eastern Sebastian County, probably western Franklin, and certainly western Logan County more so than Franklin. Let's go to do this. Let's go a little bit closer. It's a strong thunderstorm. Imminently got some strong winds coming out of it. Here's the high school, the Greenwood High School, right? Here's going to be Bloomer back here, just for some context. We're kind of between Greenwood and Bloomer right there, south of Highway 22. A little hook right there. A little concerning. Nothing immediate, nothing overwhelmingly alarming, but a little bit of a hook trying to develop in that area. I kind of look at some of the other wind velocities, different ways to see the winds and kind of what they're doing, and I don't see anything that gives me heartburn right now. So let's keep focusing on that. We'll come back to that cell, give it the radar a couple more minutes to kind of scan things out, see if something doesn't appear more so. That tornado warning has since been dropped. The one that was going to be coming into western LaFleur County. So that's the good news that we were able to pass along to you there. Let's hope that nothing else tries to spin up in that flank of the cell. Minimally, we're going to have a strong thunderstorm impacting all of LaFleur County, and we'll eventually probably see the rest of the county included in additional warnings for severe thunderstorms. Damaging winds being the primary hazard associated with these storms that we're looking at out there this morning. At times we've seen a little bit of hail, but for the most part, we're not seeing large hail. Penny size, generally about as large as it's getting out there, which is some good news. None of us want to deal with wind and hail. That's the worst, right? Wind-driven hailstones can create a decent amount of damage. Just ask a lot of folks that live along 412, ask a lot of folks that live in Waldron and Boonville from this spring alone. Right now, though, that doesn't appear to be the case. Damaging winds going to be the primary concern with some gusty winds as well. Looks like they just dropped that Sebastian County warning. Is that what happened there?
Looking to see what the chat was saying. Didn't really see any update coming on chat, and I still see it on my GR, but I feel like they may have just dropped that.
Boy, it was a short-lived warning if they did. My goodness, that was in and out in no time. We'll see if that doesn't reappear. I kind of struggle to think they would drop it so quickly, especially with kind of that hook that's kind of developing right there. I don't know. I don't know about that. Let's talk about Johnson, Logan, and Scott County, where things are really quiet right now. It's quiet right now, but obviously you see what's coming. There's a big line of storms. Joshua, what do you say? Can you just give me an estimated trajectory, estimated speed on, if you want to just sample the Franklin County warning, that'll be good enough.
Yeah, and just real quick too, Weather Service saying that they did cancel that warning.
Wow.
So going to take a look, and it looks like the big warning there was moving east at 55 was the general storm movement that they were giving for that one. The smaller one that goes into Danville is also 55, so pretty much along the line of around 55 miles an hour.
Okay, so I pushed the wrong button again. My goodness. I haven't had a lot of sleep. I haven't had actually any sleep at all. About 24 hours going on a lot of coffee, and I'm fidgeting. That's what's happening over here. 55 miles an hour, you said, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Let me put a new track on that. Off towards the east. That's going to bring it into Johnson, Logan, Scott County around these times. So northern Johnson County, the Elk General Store right now, 651, brings the leading edge of that line into the Poto area around 652, Alta's 657, so less than 10 minutes there. And not much longer for, of course, Coal Hill and Hartman there along 64. Hartford there in Sebastian County, 711, Clarksville, 713, Lamar, 720, Boonville at the high school there, 724, Magazine at 730 on the dot, New Blaine, 734. Mount Magazine State Park, 738. You get over into the London community in Pope County. They're not far from the nuclear power plant, around 743. Times of arrival look kind of a little funky there, and the reason why, your line of storms is oriented from the northeast back towards the southwest. And so the northern flank, of course, is going to get to you a little bit quicker than the south flank of that storm. Folks up in the booth, John, producers, and Jacob, our coverage is probably going to continue through 7 o'clock. Okay, thank you all so much for standing by. We apologize that I had to cover up your newscast for you this morning, but goodness gracious, when these severe storms happen, that's just our commitment to you, and we'll just do our best to get through it all this morning. Right now, that threat continues for a lot of us, primarily in the River Valley. That's where our most focus is right now. Severe storms have impacted northwest Arkansas, but for the most part, they're moving out of the area. The exception being Madison County. Madison County is very important to us, of course. That's where we still have some potential for seeing some damaging straight line winds, but it really looks like the leading edge of that line extending back towards LaFleur County, which is going to primarily impact what we would consider the River Valley and the Ouachitas. Scott County, portions of Scott County is certainly included in that warning. Waldron is not, at least as of right now. We'll have to see what the plan for that one is as that line of storms gets a little bit closer. They've got some time before they have to decide what they're going to do with that specific cell right there. I'm really shocked they canceled that warning for Sebastian County. To me, it looks like it's going to be a pretty strong storm. They're smart, so I'm not second guessing their work, no question about that, but that's a pretty strong storm coming through Fort Smith right now, Greenwood as well. I'm not seeing that kink as much as I was, so I'm feeling a little bit better about that. I was probably just being a little overcautious, which is who I am when it comes to these storms. I want to give folks as much heads up as I possibly can. So I was kind of talking out loud, being a little bit transparent that there might have been a kink, but I'm not seeing that. That's good news. Let's hope that continues. I suspect it might. In southwestern Franklin County, things are somewhat quiet right now, but look at that storm. The leading edge of that is pretty crisp, well-defined. That's where we would probably see a surge of straight-line winds coming out of that. Ozark, you're included in that severe thunderstorm warning. A lot of wind, very well possible, north of I-40, more or less like a lot of rain. I mean, these rain showers are really, really heavy. You're also seeing a decent amount of lightning strikes showing up, more so near Fort Smith, near Arcoma, Spiro, Panama. Seeing a lot more of those lightning bolts right there. So it's going to be really loud out there, near constant lightning there, but noticeably some strikes there in Franklin County as well. A lot of lightning happening in Madison County. All of that's pushing up towards the east. So while things have been really quiet for you this morning in Clarksville, from let's say Coal Hill and Hartman over towards Knoxville and let's say the Delaware community back in Logan County, from Subiaco, New Blaine, Paris, back towards Magazine and Boonville, you are under a warning, a severe thunderstorm warning for those winds that are knocking at your back doorstep. May take a few more minutes to get there, but they are closing in on you folks there. Weather Service out of Little Rock issuing those warnings for us. Joshua, you're not going to be able to do it on Max 1, but is it possible you could tell me when these warnings expire for Scott, Logan, and Johnson?
So let's take a look here. The ones for Logan and Scott County, I believe they had that until 7:30 in the morning. And then the one that includes Johnson is until 7:15.
Okay, so got a little bit longer to go for those specifically right there. Let's do this. I want to go back to that LaFleur County cell. The rotation had weakened really quickly, and that's why that warning was dropped. I just want to make sure that nothing is trying to spin up quickly out there. And I don't see that. That's good news. Fanshawe was included in the warning, but Now it's just a severe thunderstorm warning for some winds, and I'll tell you, even looking at the winds there, there is a little pocket of some strong winds right just the east of Tallahena, right there, 56 miles per hour. So you might have some 50, 60 mile per hour straight line winds coming through, let's say, Heavener and Worcester, likely over the next few minutes. That warning is not going to impact Podo. South of Podo, it certainly will. Of course, here's Worcester through Fanshawe. Fanshawe is included, Worcester's not, Heavener's not, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's not a new warning issued for you folks, just given those winds are quite strong out there. To the east of Tallahena, that's going to be tracking over towards the east. That inevitably does impact Scott County. Black Fork, Blancett, Oliver, perhaps Waldron as well, may very well be included when that storm gets there. It's moving a little bit slower, the southern flank is, so it may be a little bit longer before that is going to be the case for us this morning. So just to give you a heads up, kind of what our plan is here. So typically our protocol is we will stay on traditional Channel 5 with tornado warnings. And we will stream our coverage for free, of course, everywhere we can. We're talking 5 News Plus, the free app, your cell phone app, 5 News, Facebook, YouTube, as many places online as we can. We typically do that for severe thunderstorm warnings. And so just a heads up, in about 6 minutes, our newscast is scheduled to end. In the absence of a tornado warning, we'll probably wrap up our coverage on air on Channel 5 and take you to whatever programming comes up next after 5 News this morning. But our coverage will continue, as it always does, over on those streaming platforms until this line segment is either A, entirely out of the area, or all of those warnings are allowed to expire or dropped or canceled off. So that's just some housekeeping notes. If you're watching us on traditional Channel 5 right now this morning, number one, good morning to you. Number two, if you want to continue following our storm coverage here this morning, you might want to go ahead and try to find us on some of those other platforms. 5 News Plus, great area to find us. It's a free app available for your smart TVs, Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, those devices, or of course Facebook, YouTube's a great place to find us there as well, or on our mobile device. Mobile device is probably really great in case you lose power. Just some options I wanted to pass along to you. I don't want you to lose coverage for when we go off the air here in about 5 minutes. So folks up in the booth, I don't know if you want to give whoever's the hub an update, but we'll ride this out for about 5 more minutes on Channel 5, and at that point we'll take you back to regular programming. Our coverage then will continue on our streaming platforms. The reason why, you got a strong thunderstorm, a big old line of them, moving through northwest Arkansas, the River Valley, back into southeast Oklahoma, going to be moving through the Ouachitas, capable at this point of producing about 60 or so mile per hour winds. A lot of that actually happening around the area. In fact, I want to do something here. What I'd like to do, this may look funny for a second, but we will get through it. I'd like to just take a look at some of our cameras here. I'm seeing a lot of wind and a lot of rain out there. Let's see, this will load up. First, the Ozark camera, which I think is probably where we have the strongest of storm right now. That's the one that is warned. And you can see in the bottom middle box right there, you really just can't see anything at all. Typically, on a clear day, as you well know, it's a beautiful shot of the Arkansas River. Blinding rain right there. It's still pointed over towards the river bridge, which would be right in this general vicinity. Can't see any of that at all out there this morning. 68 degrees current temperature there. The other thing to note, you look into the Fort Smith camera, that's where that strong but not severe thunderstorm is moving through. This is going to be sitting at the Mercy Hospital overlooking Rogers Avenue. Still pointed back off generally towards the west-southwest, and you're kind of starting to see the sky get a little bit lighter out there. That's probably the back edge of that storm. It's going to take us several more minutes before we clear the Fort Smith area. A lot of lightning. You probably saw that right out there. Those storms have been really electric this morning. I think they woke a lot of folks up really early, and I apologize for that. Looks like we do have a new tornado warning. This is going to be for LaFleur County. Let's go straight back over to live Doppler radar and see what has developed there quickly. This is going to be for southern LaFleur County right here. So heads up in the booth. We will not go back to regularly scheduled programming. We will not be doing that. We'll be sticking with this specific cell right here. Let's go back into a rotation detector get an idea of what that rotation is looking like as I get that queued up. Circulation quickly appears to be developing southern LaFleur. It's moving pretty fast. Let's go in tight on that thing right there as that's finally coming in.
And the area of rotation, at least on this one, looks to be west of Page.
West of Page, okay, south of Heavener. Go kind of looking to some of that velocity. Is this it right here?
Yeah, it's...
There's two. There's two areas of rotation. There's two.
Got one small one to the north, and then at least on GR behind the scenes, the stronger winds are with that southern one.
Okay. Two areas of rotation now in LaFleur County. Heavener is included in this tornado warning. The community of Page is as well. I also want to give you folks in Scott County a heads up. Here's the Oklahoma-Arkansas state line. Scott County right here. This is tracking off towards the east. Joshua, how quick was that one moving, this new one?
So it looks like for that new warning, it's moving east at 60 miles an hour, and that warning goes until 7:30.
Okay, thank you so much for that. 60 miles per hour. I'm going to do this. I'm going to draw the path from the area of that rotation right here off towards the east. I'm going to kind of have to do that a little bit more broadly speaking, and that would put it at Cedar Lake South Shore 7 a.m., Cedar Lake North Shore 7:01. So now, Huntubby 7:07, Haw Creek 7:10, Black Fork at 7:15. We're talking southern LaFleur County. Heavener and Worcester not included in this tornado warning. Well, I say Heavener is. Portions of Heavener is. They really drew that line right through the middle part of town. South side of town, I think, is where I would be taking my safety precautions if I'm in Heavener right now. Two areas of rotation embedded within this cluster of rain out here that kind of really developed somewhat quickly. That's always the fear with some of these cells. They can do it so quickly, oftentimes within just a scan or two. In fact, now we've got some new data in, I'll tell you, I'm really actually seeing one more prominent area of rotation. It's going to be this one right here. That one's a little bit tighter, a little bit more wound up. Perhaps there still is a little bit of a signal right there in that secondary area, but it looks like this northernmost one may have become a bit more predominant as it is a little bit more organized, tightly wound up right here. This is going to be along County Road D 1510, Post Mountain Road, Holson Valley Road, another one out there. That rotation right here in this general vicinity. You can see those reds matching up with those greens. That's going to be our Doppler radar indicated rotation. That is what has prompted this new tornado warning, which now runs for southern LaFleur County. It is going to be tracking off towards the east somewhat real quickly. Here's Concert right here. Here's Oklahoma Highway 1 or 270. We're looking to be to the north of that. Generally speaking, I think this is going to be our main concern. At one point, a scan or two ago, we called out two different areas of rotation. I'll tell you, I think right now, though, we're primarily looking at just one, and that is going to be moving towards the Huntubby community, Loving community there as well, Concert, as well as Page, I believe, I should say Stapp and Page. I think that's going to be our primary concern as that cell moves off towards the east. It's not going to include Podo. In fact, let's do this. I actually want to look at that Podo camera. I see what may be a lowering. Yeah, it's going to be tough to see out there. This is looking from Podo. Not only we're a ways away, but there's probably a lot of rain, so I'm not sure we're actually going to be able to see much at all. Pretty intense thunderstorm there nonetheless. Let's go back to live radar. We'll continue to track that on radar. Sometimes when we have these high precipitation events, it's just really tough to see anything from our cameras. Chasers have a hard time out there as well. And so in those situations, we just rely on live radar. And while it has its limitations, it's pretty good. especially at this range. We're pretty close to the radar, so we're probably going to be able to see most everything with some proficiency. We'll go back a little bit closer. Before we do that, I just want to give folks a heads up here. Johnson, Logan, portions of Scott County, the severe thunderstorm warning continues. That line of storms producing 60-mile-per-hour straight line winds. It is advancing off towards the east. No rotation noted up and down that line. We'll keep an eye on it. Right now, the only rotation we're seeing is going to be right here in southern LaFleur County. Strong thunderstorm moving through Fort Smith right now, moving through Pecola, Poto, Hackett, Greenwood, Bloomer, Fort Chaffee. Nothing severe. I know you're hearing a lot of thunder and seeing a lot of lightning. Rain's heavy, but there's nothing actually severe right there. Our tornado warning just issued a few moments ago as 1.2 areas of rotation try to develop quickly in southern LaFleur County. I think that's really congealed. It's kind of merged into just one area of rotation, and that's going to be tracking off towards the east. Boy, right there, I think it's weakened a little bit. What do you say, Joshua? I don't know if that's as pronounced as it was even a scan or two ago.
Yeah, I think notice how it's kind of V-shaped, where there was these two areas of reflectivity that are kind of merging in addition to that rotation. I'm noticing as that's merging that really this kind of fell apart pretty quick in the last couple of scans. Of course, it's one of those things where it can pulse back up, but hopefully this might be kind of at least undercutting this for now. So we'll need to continue to watch it. But I think this merger between those rotations and then these storms kind of just coming together may be helping to at least tone down that velocity signature, at least for now.
I think you're right. I think that's what's happening out there. In fact, you look at some of the rotation detector, boy, it's messy and weak. So, you know, if you're in this warning polygon, Page, community right there, Cosner, yeah, let's take those safety precautions. Let's act as if there is a tornado imminent. That's certainly what the warning means. But that rotation signal to me is a lot weaker than it was just 2 or 3 minutes ago. And that's certainly something that I'd like to continue to see out there. While we're here looking at our velocity signatures, kind of waiting to see what this storm is going to choose to do, I'd like to kind of work our way up and down this line, just kind of looking, is there anything else trying to spin up? Have you noticed anything on Enrod over there that we may jump to?
Yeah, just looking at the end rot here, just kind of going up and down the line, there really isn't any sort of indications of any strong rotation right now. Periodically, there may be a little bit of an uptick, but so far, the only bright signal would be a little bit closer to the Clarksville area, but as I'm saying that, it's gone the next scan.
I was actually coming up to Clarksville on reflectivity on rain mode here. You kind of see that notching segment right there, and that was certainly something that stood out to me. I was curious what you saw on Enrod over there, but you said it's going away. Yeah,
that last scan, we had just a little tiny circle of brighter color, and now that's just completely gone in the next scan.
Interesting. Let's watch that one closely. Something I got a feeling about that one. Right here, very weak rotation north of Clarksville, right there where that hook is developing. It's not the most pronounced signal. Weather Service doesn't have a warning on it because they don't feel like right now it needs one, and I would generally agree with that, but just in the spirit of giving folks a heads up, we'll go a little bit closer here and let you know that from Ludwig through Hillcrest, Woodland, and Clarksville, a little bit of a rotation right now. It's going to be crossing County Road 3390 right there, coming up on County Road 4400. That will be crossing Arkansas 21 up towards Ludwig out there. I don't know if there's probably no one boating out there this early in the morning, but if anyone's around the Ludwig community, Clarksville, points towards the north up 21. A pretty strong storm moving through that's got some gusty, damaging winds at a minimum coming out of it. But it looks like it might try to be developing a little bit of rotation. Weak rotation, weak signal there. Rotation nonetheless. Let's be mindful of that one specifically. While we're waiting to see what that cell does, we will go up and down this line once more.
And it's just another note too, noticing we're getting a lot of side lobe contamination or at least in Crawford County. So just west of Boonville and just to the northeast of Hartford, we've been having some false signals there to just be mindful of. It looks like there's some interference with the radar off and on throughout the morning.
Okay. Everyone in Logan County, the storm is now moving out of Franklin and out of Johnson and out of Sebastian County into Logan County. So from Boonville over towards Magazine, Paris, Subiaco, New Blaine, off towards the east right there, Morrison Bluff. Things have been really quiet. You've been under a warning for a really long time, and you're probably thinking, goodness, what's going to happen? Is it ever going to get here? The cell is moving slowly. That line is, but it is in fact moving your direction. It's just taking a little bit of time. It's moving right now into the western portions of the county. Overall, I will tell you though, just looking at rain mode, while it's going to be messy here, the storm is a little bit more organized as a whole in LaFleur County. Rotation, I think, has actually come back up as we take another look at the brand new data that's just now coming in there. A little bit of an increase in organization near Stapp, Haw Creek, 259, Oklahoma 270 right there. That's where that rotation is. I think that's come up a little bit. Enrot, what does it say over there, Joshua?
Sorry, what was that?
Any Enrot indication into this LaFleur County cell?
Still seeing just a little bitty pocket. It's not super bright, but it's there, and that's located basically along Highway 59, just in that vicinity that you're talking about right there. So not super high in terms of the values there, but just enough that it's persistent. So again, we need to continue to watch that.
Yeah, I think that just on velocity mode, to me, it's a little bit more organized than it was a scan or two ago. Still not the most impressive signature, but a signature of some rotation moving into the Stapp community page. Here's Haw Creek. Black Fork over in Scott County would be next in line there as well. This one was moving at what speed, Joshua?
The latest update says 40 miles an hour.
Okay, that southern flank has been moving a little bit slower for us this morning. So from that area of rotation off towards the east at 40 miles per hour, Zoe at 712, Stapp 713, Big Creek Church 722, Haw Creek, how about 722 for you folks there as well. For some context, currently time now 7:09, tracking a tornado-warned storm in southern LaFleur County that has a Doppler radar indicated area of rotation. Nothing confirmed at the moment. Rotation right there, as I see it, probably does not indicate strong enough that there would be a tornado in progress. We'll check the debris tracker just to make sure. And no, I don't find any debris falling out of the sky there. So we probably don't have a tornado at the moment, but it does have some rotation that very well could try to spin something up at a moment's notice. And that's why this warning has been issued coming into the Stapp community, closing in on Page and Haw Creek there as well. Black Fork would be next in line over across the state line into portions of southwestern Scott County, assuming this doesn't weaken before it gets to the state line. It's kind of been coming together over the last couple of scans there. Heavener is also included in this warning, so if there was any folks in Heavener, your phone alerted you to a tornado warning and you're kind of getting your bearings, what's going on, the area of rotation is well off to your south. So folks in Heavener, you're going to be okay. Right now, the rotation is well off toward your south near Page, and that is going to be closing in there, of course, as we've said, on the state line. Let's go back area wide and get an idea of what's happening. There's been a lot of storms out there this morning. Flooding continues with these flood warnings in Washington, Benton, Madison, and Carroll counties. Severe thunderstorm warnings for Logan and Johnson. Sliver of Scott County right there. As that line of storms approaches you, you're going to have a lot of wind coming out of that. We had a little bit of a hook trying to develop near Clarksville and Ludwig. I actually still see it from a big picture perspective. We'll go in a little bit closer to see if there's anything else trying to develop right there. Not the most pronounced signal when you look at the actual winds. Let's see if there's actually any rotation. And I still think there actually might be just a little bit of rotation right there. Joshua, I don't have Little Rock up over here, so I'm going to be relying on you to see if you want to get some input from those folks there. But that's where that rotation would be right now on Ludwig, I believe, just to the north of Clarksville, pretty much right on top of Highway 21. Well, let's make sure I'm right on that. If not, it's going to be just barely off towards the east. Yep, here's 21 right here, Hillcrest, Ludwig. This is going to be passing off towards the east, running almost parallel with 292. Not tornado warned right now. Let's watch that cell really closely. Something tells me okay, new data coming in there. Yeah, some weak rotation right on top of Ludwig. It's weak. It's not enough to prompt a tornado warning, but it is rotation nonetheless. It'd probably be tough to see it on the leading edge of that line, but there is a little bit of a kink down there. It's less pronounced than it was.
So far, no updates from Little Rock on that one, but I'll
Okay.
let you know if they end up saying anything.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's go back into LaFleur County here. We'll work our way down this line while we're on our way to LaFleur County. I'm just checking to make sure there's nothing else trying to develop, not really seeing anything much at all. Looks like that cell merger, all that messy convection right there, still kind of coming together. We've looked back into the wind velocities. I think that rotation has come back up. This storm's trying to produce.
Yeah, we have more of a gate-to-gate lock there just immediately to the northwest of Page, and it looks like the normalized rotation has come up there. If you're in these areas, go ahead and seek shelter just because this is a notable uptick compared to the last couple scans.
Yeah, this is coming together. It's a little bit tighter. This storm near Stapp and Page and Hog Creek, rotation's intensifying. It's coming together. I'm not finding any actual debris. It is moving towards Black Fork, Scott County. Right now, Stapp and Page, Hog Creek, you need to be in your safe locations right now. Mineral Springs Road, Turkey Pen Lane, Hicks Road, County Road 04733, Black Fork Drive, County Road East 1560, Hog Creek Road, just to name a few that are currently under the area of rotation. That's where it is right now. Where's it going? It's going east. Currently about 40 miles per hour. If you live anywhere along Hog Creek Road or Black Fork Road, there between Page and Hog Creek, Page and even say Hog Creek and Black Fork, you need to be in your tornado safety locations right now. Here's your area of rotation. Continues to come up, tightening up with just about every scan right here. I don't know if there's a tornado in progress right now, but what I do know is this storm is trying to produce something. Whether or not it's actually able to, that remains to be seen. This storm's coming together. It's tightening up. Here's 270. Here's Page. This is where our rotation is right now. When you look at what it's going to look like on rain mode, my guess, based off of everything else we've seen on this storm this morning, it's dead center in all that rain and that precipitation. So I get the urge to go step out on the front porch and see if you can't see it. I'll just tell you, you ain't going to see it. You're wasting your time. You're putting yourself in danger out there. You're not going to be able to see through all that rain. It's pretty intense, especially where that rotation actually is right now. So that's not going to be visible at all, I'm afraid. We'll look at the debris tracker. Is there anything showing up? No, we're not right now. That's some good news for us. Let's hope that holds. And given the fact this is continuing to intensify, kind of coming together a little bit stronger, rotation right there, a little pocket of it, Page and Stapp. It's moving towards the east. You said about 40 miles per hour. Let's do this. Let's put a new track on it. I'm going to put a little bit of a larger track. I want to include some more folks in this. I'm drawing this over into Scott County, even though Scott County is not currently in a warning. Just want to give folks there an early heads up. Page basically now, Puryear at 725, Black Fork 726, Haw Creek Church 728, Piney Church 732, Beauchamp Church 739, Town of Beauchamp 740. Now, some of these churches haven't been churches in a long time, but they're still local landmarks that a lot of folks know exactly where they are, and that's why I keep them in the maps. The locals there definitely know exactly where those are. But perhaps if anyone is having services there this morning in that polygon, I know it's early, so we probably don't have church services just yet, but if folks are heading to an early morning service, we need to seek shelter relatively quickly between Page, Stapp, and Haw Creek, Black Fork as well. Doppler radar indicated rotation continues to come up with this cell moving into your neck of the woods. Tornado warning is continuing for southern LaFleur County. Folks in Heavener, you're not included. This is well to your south. Hontubbing, well to your south. Not going to be a concern for you. You take a zoomed out approach, you can see the spin in the atmosphere. You can see that rotation. So first of all, here's where it is. But the other thing to note, you kind of see these winds getting ingested right there. You kind of see that spin counterclockwise. You can kind of see that visually right there. And when those winds tighten up, when those winds get really tight and spin like that, that's going to be your rotation. Weather Service has updated the warning. That's why that polygon looks a little bit smaller than it once did. All they're saying is folks to the west of 259 no longer included in that warning. Now it's primarily just to the east of 259, anywhere along 270 back towards the state line. You need to be in your safe location right now. Doppler radar continues to indicate strong rotation, strengthening rotation, in fact, actually moving through your neck of the woods. We'll go back into area wide. Looks like we did drop our Johnson County warning. That's good news. That storm was showing some signs of strengthening. That warning, though, being dropped indicates that it has fallen below severe limits. It has not been dropped for Logan County, though. Strong thunderstorm capable of producing 60-mile-per-hour winds continues for those of us in Logan County. That's going to be moving through Boonville and Parrish right now. I expect those winds to be high for the next about 10 to 12 minutes, more than likely. Behind those winds, as they slowly calm down, they're not going to go from 60 to 0. They'll take a little bit longer, right? The rain is going to continue. It's going to be heavy rain at times. A lot of lightning happening right now in Mansfield, Greenwood, Sebastian County. The sky's probably booming out there. My grandpa always used to say the tater wagons are a-rolling. And right now, I would say in Sebastian County, the tater wagons probably a-rolling out there. You can probably hear a lot of that thunder. Nothing severe, though. It's got a lot of bark and thankfully no bite to us right now in Sebastian County. If we go back into LaFleur County, that's where we would have one tornado warning. It's our only tornado warning as of this moment. I'm curious to see what the Little Rock Weather Service, who is looking out for our friends in Scott County, what they're going to decide to do based off of this Doppler radar indicated rotation. Now southeast of Heavener, coming up on Page and Haw Creek. It's going to be south of Huntubby, moving over towards Black Fork. May clip portions of Rich Mountain there in Polk County. Come really close to it anyways. Rotation has not changed. That latest data is now in. It's still there. It's not the strongest I've ever seen, but it is stronger than it was. Right now on top of Haw Creek Road, Black Fork Road, Puryear, over towards Lower Haw Creek Road, Black Fork Road. That's where that rotation is right now. I'll kind of draw some of that out for you. This general vicinity, north of Fogle. That was the worst circle ever. North of Fogle right here. Black Fork Road. If you live along there, I hope you're in your safe location. You got some heavy rain coming through right now. Embedded within that heavy rain is some spin in the atmosphere, some Doppler radar indicated rotation. That's likely producing some gusty winds minimally. When you see rotation like that, you have to wonder, are we about to see a tornado drop out of that rotation? We go into our debris tracker to make sure that there's nothing in the air that's not supposed to be there. I don't see anything. We're close enough to the Fort Smith radar that I'd feel pretty confident if we had a tornado on the ground, we would be able to know it pretty quickly. And that's not the case right now, but that doesn't mean that that might not be the case in the next few minutes. That cell's moving quickly across the state line over into Scott County. With every scan that comes in, it's picking up a little bit of speed there, north of 270, coming into the Black Fork community. So for folks in LaFleur County, southern LaFleur County, specifically in this warning, you're going to have to go a little bit longer, but it's almost out of your neck of the woods. Just bear with this just a little bit longer. That rotation still persistently there. Strong thunderstorm, quite a bit of lightning, quite a bit of thunder with that specific cell as well. That's our only tornado warning at the moment. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning for Johnson County. Got a strong thunderstorm coming through Franklin, Sebastian County. In fact, Weather Service telling us that this storm in Sebastian County is just barely below the severe weather thresholds right now. And that's what they call a special weather statement. It's like something below a severe thunderstorm warning, if you want to think of it that way. They're indicating you've got a good soaking rain. I'll tell you, looking at all that rain out there, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have some of those classic flooding issues that we always have in parts of Fort Smith, those low-lying areas that flood pretty easily. We've had a lot of rain in recent days. This storm has been moving through for quite a while. It feels like we've been tracking it for at least an hour or so in the Fort Smith area, and that's going to give us some concern that we probably are going to see those flooding issues pick up over the next few minutes. Let me do this. I'm curious how much rain is okay, wow, holy moly. So those rainfall rates right now in southern Sebastian County, we're talking south of Greenwood near Mansfield, getting close to Hackett, is around 3 inches an hour. So that's assuming that if this cell were to not move at all, if it were just to be stationary right on top of that same area, 60 minutes time passes, you've got 3 inches of rain in the rain bucket. That's a lot of rain in a very short amount of time. Those purples there indicate to us that we're probably going to have flash flooding concerns. That inevitably is going to be tracking over into Logan and Scott County as well. So heads up there that we're seeing a good heavy downpour southern Sebastian County moving towards Scott into Logan County. That on top of the wind potential that we're coming out of this cell. My goodness, a lot of lightning out there. Goodness gracious, that is a very electric thunderstorm. Let's go back into our rotation. Where are we seeing with the newest data that's just not coming in?
It looks like it's starting to move out of the polygon.
I agree. It looks like Little Rock's not going to issue anything.
Yeah, they haven't said anything in the chat here, so at least my assumption right now is they're not considering at least a tornado warning. Not to say they won't issue at least a severe thunderstorm warning, maybe with a tag, but no updates from them quite yet on that. But I will say the rotation is not looking as tight the last scan either. There's just a little spot, but it's looking rather sloppy compared to what it was just even a couple scans ago.
That newest data suggests it's in Arkansas now, Scott County, Black Fork, but goodness, I would even, it kind of feels like a stretch to call that rotation, just to be quite honest. It's so disorganized and weak that I think that thing really fell apart pretty quickly there. It was coming together quick, but it looks like it's kind of falling apart. Let's hope that trend continues. I think it might. I kind of want to look at some other wind products just to see. Yeah, that ain't much. That ain't much at all.
And good news going down up and down the line here. Really nothing sticking out anywhere in terms of normalized rotation. That little area in Clarksville, there's still that little bitty kind of inflow notch there that we can continue to monitor. Just a light dot in terms of the normalized rotation near Knoxville. So that is the only area that's really catching my eye, and that last scan looks like that little inflow notch may be occluding itself a little bit more, but that's still kind of persistent, even though it hasn't really gone on to do anything the last couple scans.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything there at all that worries me in Johnson County. That's good. For a while, it looked like it was trying to come together, but I'm not seeing anything at all that worries me right now in Johnson County. Logan County is really where we have the issue right now. Logan County between Paris and Boonville, back towards Mount Magazine, even extending closer to Blue Ball. That's where we've got some good winds coming out of the cell right now. Look at just some of the winds. Boonville looks like some of those brighter pinks right there. That's probably going to be 50 to 60. Okay, 50, 49, 50 right there. That's going to be pushing out of that leading edge of that line. So you got some straight line winds coming pretty much all through Logan County right now. Those winds are going to be pushing out of the leading edge of that storm, 50 to 60 mile per hour. At times you're going to get a little bit of small hail mixing in with that heavy downpour. That heavy downpour is going to produce a lot of rain, a lot of soaking rain. So flash flooding very well could be a concern for us there, especially closer to the Boonville area. Southern Logan County may get in on that. Looks like they've expired that tornado warning in LaFleur County. So let me do this. Let me just look area wide. It's not fallen off the map yet, but the Weather Service has definitively canceled that. So let's do this. We tried to do this earlier, and Mother Nature had different plans. She humbles us a lot. Let's do this. Let's stay here for a couple more scans just to make sure that cell is going to behave. I really want to get folks back to regular programming, but just know this, even when we take you back to regular programming on traditional Channel 5, our coverage continues. If you want to find us on 5 Plus, 5 News Plus, Facebook, YouTube, all the places, we'll continue tracking until there's no other warnings, which really may be in the next hour or so, just given this line's passing off towards the east. I suspect that we'll probably be here at least until the next hour, but at that point, warnings will have dropped off, and that could potentially be some good news for us. Let's do this. Let's go back into Scott County, where that cell was kind of exiting right there, exiting the floor, coming into Scott County. That warning polygon, that box is still there. The computer's going to drop it. It just takes it a second to realize what the Weather Service has done and expiring it a little bit early.
The Weather Service hasn't said anything. There's a little bitty spot. It's definitely not tight rotation or strong rotation, but you can see where that little area of spin is still kind of holding on and then not really doing anything for the meantime. So not an immediate tornado risk there. There's also a little notch to the north and east of Black Fork as well. just very broad area of rotation. You can see it's just almost a little, just a little bulge on that line there, but again, nothing too significant. And of course, the Weather Service hasn't really given us any sort of updates, but two little areas to just continue to monitor, of course, in these areas. Normalized rotation is showing a little bit brighter indications on that more northern broad rotation that I mentioned there. And that's that one to the northeast of Black Fork. It's not necessarily tight rotation, it's pretty broad, but that may also be a sign that there's some gusty winds starting to develop with that as well.
I would believe so. I definitely believe there's some gusty winds coming out, especially north side of Waldron. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we don't get a new severe thunderstorm warning for even this portion of the cell right there. You take a kind of a closer look, really tight into Waldron. You kind of sample some of these pixels here. I don't want to cherry pick, but you look for some of those broader ones. There's 43, so we're kind of picking up there, west side of Waldron. Let's go a little bit towards the north. Some other pieces of information to pass along to you. Looks like we've got some flooding ongoing in Alma right now. It looks like there's some trees down near Artist Point, northern Crawford County. That's probably we saw that kind of coming through, right, on that RDOT camera, those really gusty winds. That was more than likely straight line winds, but there was rotation, strong rotation. That was tornado warned, so we'll have to see what that was. I'm leaning right now, based off of radar presentation, that it was probably damaging straight line winds. Here's going to be the Waldron community right up and down 71, about 50 or so mile per hour wind gusts coming out of that. So we might be just below that severe weather threshold. Let's track that closely to see if that doesn't pulse up. Maybe we can stay below that severe weather threshold. Gusty winds nonetheless. Northern Scott County, outside of Waldron, you're going to get some good winds in Waldron as well. Probably 40 to 50 right there. Winds are right now strongest from Boonville up towards Paris. That line of storms tracking off towards the east as well. Probably going to be a little bit breezier, of course, with elevation on top of Mount Magazine. That storm's going to be on top of Mount Magazine, so in the next couple of minutes, you can kind of see that storm's probably just the west, a few miles. There's Blue Mountain right there, Highway 309, of course, right there running through Logan County. Here's the state park, Mount Magazine, big elevation right there. Probably a beautiful view into the leading edge of that storm off towards the west there. Cove Lake, I'm not sure. It's probably a little bit early for folks to be out at Cove Lake, but if perhaps someone is out there, you definitely don't want to be out on the water with those winds coming through and all that lightning. And 7:30, no one's out there, I'm sure. Unless you're fishing. It's free fishing weekend in Arkansas. That was my plans for the weekend. Mother Nature had different plans for me, and that's okay. That's okay. Flood warning now for Johnson County. It's going to be a flash flood warning for almost all of Johnson County, from Coal Hill through Clarksville up towards Ludwig and Oark. All the way over towards Lamar there. Heavy rain coming out of that cell. I'll tell you, the heaviest rain that we've seen, the heaviest and highest rainfall rates have been southern Sebastian County. My goodness, that was a lot of rain, nearly 3 inches an hour earlier. That was that same cell that's producing some flooding ongoing right now in Logan County, which is, of course, a bit of a concern for us there. Okay, let's do this. Current time is 7:30 on the dot. So with the absence of any tornado warning, as our policy always is, it looks like they actually dropped that severe thunderstorm warning. So this is perfect timing. Not only do we not have a tornado warning, we actually don't even have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect right now. So we're going to take you back to regular programming right here on Channel 5. We're going to continue streaming our coverage for a little bit longer. I want to make sure that cell pushes all the way out of the area before we turn that stream off. So we'll continue tracking these storms over on 5 News Plus, 5 News app for your cell phones, Facebook and YouTube as well. We can go ahead and take our coverage off of Channel 5 though.
All right, welcome back, folks. And just as we were saying, there was no severe thunderstorm warnings. We've got this new one that was just issued from our friends there in Little Rock. And it's a very large severe thunderstorm warning. Now, the good news is this clip's just a fraction of some of our counties there. So portions of Logan, Scott, Johnson counties, there's just a sliver of those counties that's included in this rather large severe thunderstorm warning. I saw this and was thinking this is probably one of the largest severe thunderstorm warning boxes I've seen in recent memory. So Weather Service in Little Rock is just going to go ahead and just do a blanket warning on this as it makes its way further into their area. So it covers the entirety of the stretch. And you can see there's still some gusty winds there. I do believe that this warning is most likely for the risk for 60 miles an hour wind gusts. So, the good news is really no areas of 70, anything like that. This is a bare minimum severe thunderstorm warning. Again, not talking hail. And also, just over the last several scans, been looking at the normalized rotation, and really there's nothing that's too interesting. Some of those areas that were closer to Scott County, Logan County, and just some of those areas that had some rotation with it earlier, really not there anymore. Not to say that it can't come back, but I think the good news is right now, when you get these lines of storms, it starts to transition. All right, so here's a look at what we've got. What I was saying was when we typically get these lines of storms, sometimes when we get more linear, it helps to at least temporarily settle things down in terms of the tornadic development. And then we get more of these spin-up risks for tornadoes. And right now, because we are more of a solid line with not really a whole lot of the broken up segments, it's a little bit more stable right now in terms of the risk for tornadoes. But again, can't let our guard down. But the good news is this will eventually be out of our neck of the woods here in just a little bit. As you can see, it does not include all of Johnson, Logan, and Scott County, just really a sliver of Logan County there, sliver of Johnson County, and an okay chunk of Scott County there as well. Some of these wind gusts are totaling to closer to 40, 50 miles an hour, but keep in mind the further out we go, the higher up that we're looking, it may be translating different to the surface. So I do think that the Weather Service issuing that for 60 miles an hour is a good warning, just because, of course, not seeing any sort of significant areas that are higher, and that's some good news there for our friends and family to the east.
I'd like to pass along. I'm getting some reports out of the Ozark community as well. Some widespread flooding there. Now, it's in an area right there along 64, coming up on 23, near the subway, the Union Bank, not far from the Pizza Hut. It often floods, but my goodness, the pictures I'm seeing just off air from my friend Garrett Shepard certainly indicate that there's some flash flooding out there. You can kind of see that back towards Boonville, Greenwood, Mansfield. We've gotten those reports out of Alma as well. So not only have we dealt with that severe weather potential, now as this line slows down, look at some of those rainfall rates. My goodness, that's 2-3 inches an hour.
Yeah, and getting those rain rates, I know several areas here in the River Valley, they're prone to flooding even if there's light rain. I know many of you that grew up or live in this area know that we do have a lot of these flood prone areas. So if you get a little bit of rainfall, we know it floods. If you get 2 to 3 inches an hour, that leads to more of a concerning flood risk. It's no longer one of those, temporary street or creek floods. This is more concerning for more long-term impacts there. It's going to take a little bit longer for it to start subsiding there. We've already seen a lot of rain so far this spring, and we're just adding more to those totals. We're not quite done with the rainfall yet. Still a little bit further to go. That's also just a quick heads up for portions of Logan and Scott County that haven't received any sort of rainfall just yet. We're going to be seeing more of that heavy rainfall moving into your communities there soon. There's several areas out here that are a little bit more rural. Another heads up too, some of the communities that have some of those gravel roads or dirt roads, they may be washed out with that much rainfall. And so this is just your early heads up that there could be some impacts due to that heavy rainfall. Of course, severe weather is always the eye-catching thing in terms of people's minds when we're talking severe winds, some hail, that tornado risk, but don't downplay this heavy rainfall potential there either. And also just a quick heads up, we've got some of this remaining rainfall moving into portions of the area that have already seen a lot more, or a lot of that rainfall so far this morning. So it looks like some more stratiform rain making its way into portions of Crawford, Sebastian, and Sequoyah counties. So not quite done with the rain yet, but the worst of it's moving off to the east. And we'll eventually see the worst of it start to move off further to the east out of our neck of the woods. Just got to get through it the next couple of minutes or so. Lots of lightning, of course, heavy rainfall. The good news is we're working over our environment. And what that means is when we have all this rain, it's helping to stabilize the atmosphere some. And we were very unstable this morning. If you looked out the window and you saw the lightning, you could see it was just incredibly prolific. We had all sorts of lightning, very unstable across the area. But all of this rainfall and this activity is helping to work over the environment. And we're going to see things start to calm down once we get to this afternoon. One of the good indications was, and I'm not sure if you saw this too, Scott, but the enhanced risk and the overall severe risk, they were basically knocking that back out further to the east with the latest day 1 update as of 7 this morning. So we'll still see maybe an isolated chance for some showers, maybe an isolated thunderstorm later, but good news for Arkansas baseball fans. I think we're really going to start winding down here over the next several hours once we get this activity cleared out. They brought up the power outages here, and let's take a look. That's in Madison County around 2100.
That's right. Franklin around 337, Crawford around just shy of 400. Looks like about 1,000, a little more than 1,000 in Washington County. Benton County around 760. Sebastian around 101. Scott County is showing up as 0, but I'm getting reports that some good viewers here are texting in that at least some folks in Waldron don't have power. So that is probably going to be something that we see. When we look into Oklahoma, there's a lot more outages. In fact, in LaFleur County, we right now have 5,000 folks without power there in LaFleur County. In Sequoyah, right around 126. Let's see, in Adair, 1,300, almost 1,400 there. You get over into Latimer County, just shy of 400. Latimer County, around 1,400 there. And I'm getting another report so this will be the second report we've got out of the city of Waldron. They're without power there. So that report probably just is going to take a little bit longer to funnel in. You're starting to see some of those numbers come up there in Scott County. That's those winds and probably the lightning too. It's really hard to tell why the power outage happened. Of course, our linemen are the best. We have literally the best around here. They'll get out there and figure it out, but there's so much lightning. I wouldn't at all be surprised if it was. I mean, look at that. Goodness gracious. How much lightning strikes do you think that is? That's, I'll tell you. Let's see here. Let me sample some of that.
I would guess 900.
This feels like the price is right. Let's see here.
Oh, wow. So that was more than 900.
Almost 1,500 lightning strikes in the last 10 minutes alone. We're on the stream here. We've got a good viewer also texted in. And I'm so embarrassed. I've not had a lot of sleep. And so I thought today was Sunday. And I was talking about folks going to church. And someone has let me know very politely that, hey, dude, it's actually Saturday. So I apologize for that. I just knew it was a weekend morning. I just assumed it was Sunday. I'm so sorry.
It's all good. We're all tired here in the studio. I'm sure you at home are also tired as well because we've had all this lightning. Even if you didn't see severe storms, it was just loud this morning. So we've got all this activity there. Definitely not a great weekend to have a garage sale this morning, or anything like that. But the other thing, too, that I was thinking of with these power outages is, we've had all this lightning. This is a prolific amount of lightning. We've had the winds, so, of course, winds tend to knock things over. That can lead to issues. The other thing, too, that I was thinking, and I've personally experienced this back at home in Dallas, sometimes when you get this much rain, sometimes those power boxes, especially if it's been super damp, they'll sink, and then it will cut the power or cause a power outage. And so that could also be something leading to that. Or, a tree was uprooted because it was so damp that the wind helped knock it over onto a power box. There's a number of things. So we've got all these factors coming together, earth, wind, and flooding. And that's going to lead to, of course, these power outages there. So, of course, unfortunate this morning for those who have no power this morning. The good news is if you have the 5 News mobile app, you can, of course, stream us on your phone, so you're not, wondering what's happening and the TV can't turn on, stuff like that. So that's why we're here with you here on 5 Plus. We're going over these storms, even though they're really not too terribly bad right now. My main concern is definitely going to be the flash flooding potential. Of course, we have these damaging winds here moving into portions of our coverage area, but right now, just looking at these winds, kind of in the medium range, so 60, maybe a couple of 65-mile-per-hour gusts would be possible, but generally speaking, not seeing anything that's alarming, 70 miles an hour or anything like that. So definitely, I would stay away from westerly windows just because it's going to be loud. Of course, if the wind picks up something, it may smack the side of the house at 60 miles an hour, but not talking those brutal 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts or anything like that. You can see some of these samples between around 34 to 53 across the board. And keep in mind, these winds, they translate different from where the radar is scanning all the way down to the ground. It looks like there is that little notch area there, maybe some broad rotational off, but that doesn't alarm me with any immediate tornado potential. Just something we'll have to watch. But I think by the time that were to do anything, if it were going to, it'd probably do so once it finally makes its way out of the area. But of course, we're watching these things. We got that tornado watch in effect. Or actually, did they go ahead and expire that? Because I knew that was until 7 this morning.
Which warning was that? I was looking at something.
Or the tornado watch that we had.
Let's see. The first one was, and they actually ended up issuing a new one for Scott, Johnson, Logan. So for most folks in the 5 News viewing area, that watch has been allowed to expire. That yellow, though, does indicate that the new watch, which is going to be, I can probably tell us, that's going to run until, technically speaking, until noon. But I'll tell you, the tornado threat is going to be over within the next 30 minutes in those 3 counties. With time, they will inevitably be dropping that watch from the west to the east.
Yeah, and I know inevitably there's going to be a couple people wondering why they would just issue that. Well, there's a couple different reasons why. A, this is to basically take over. So we had this one watch that was for Oklahoma and then into our area. That was to account for the storms overnight into the early morning. This new watch is going to account for the activity as it's making its way closer to central Oklahoma. It'll take over that because now that's out of here, we got to account for these, and then they'll slowly trim that out. But there's a little bit of an overlap for some of our counties here. So that's why we've got these different watches. That's why we've got these, different times here as different coordinating offices and a lot of logistics that are worked on behind the scenes to make sure everything is covered from office to office. So thankful for the Weather Service and their incredibly hard work that they do for everyone in these areas here. It's not an easy job, of course, for any forecaster in these areas, just because we live in an incredibly difficult to forecast microclimate, and we've got all these storms here. And if you were watching early this morning when we had the start of our show, the radar was not too impressive. We were just sitting around watching to see if these were actually going to blow up and do something, and then noticed how quickly things turned active. Thankfully, the worst of that is just starting to make its way closer to the county lines where it'll eventually make its way out of the area. But for the time being, if you're in these warnings, just expect some 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Wouldn't surprise me if a couple of gusts of 65 are possible. Not talking necessarily large hail. I think if any hail were to be possible, it'd be probably closer to P, maybe penny-sized, but really nothing too significant with the hail core tracker there. The other thing, too, Clarksville, you are still technically kind of cut between that warning, but notice the worst of it is pushed off to your east, so it's going to start calming down here relatively quick. Same with Paris. The worst of this is starting to make its way further to your east. Boonville, same thing. Waldron. Eventually, some of these cities and towns that are just basically near the county line here for Logan and Johnson County, they were going to see the worst of it here momentarily. So Gravely, just be ready for some gusty winds, but fortunately not talking any sort of tornadic risk. I know there's a lot of anxiety. We've had the storms yesterday. We've had a really busy, active year. That's basically the same word, but there's a lot of anxiety that goes into forecasts when you hear the word tornado and those risks. That's why we're here. We're going to get you through it, but fortunately, I can tell you right now, no tornado risk for the time being. Of course, we're watching it, but the main risk right now, just to reduce your fears and any anxiety, it's going to be loud, gusty winds. It's going to be scary. I know, whenever we get these strong winds, they move in, the sky's going to look scary. It's going to sound loud. Winds are unnerving. I'm going to just let you know here, we're going to get you through it. There is no tornado signature of any kind that we're watching for right now. Not to say maybe something can't spin up eventually if it were to do so in the next little bit, but right now, just going to let you know, it's going to sound unnerving. It's going to look scary. It may sound scary to some, but it's just gusty winds. That's all it is right now. Heavy rainfall, of course, very frequent lightning. So these are going to be loud, scary storms, but notice it's really just 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts here and there. So we'll get you through it. It's almost over. It's going to come in. It's going to move out here momentarily as well. So the worst of it is just making its way closer and closer to eastern Johnson, Logan, and Scott counties. So if you live in eastern Johnson, Logan, and Scott counties, worst of it's moving to your area, but we're going to get you through it. Worst of it is almost done. So that's some good news there.
A lot of flooding reports starting to come in from Ozark, Alma, Van Buren, starting to see some of those. Probably going to see some of those in Fort Smith. I've not actually seen a Fort Smith report just yet. Wouldn't be surprised at all if that's not the case here over the next several minutes, especially as you got some light but more rain continue to move through Sequoia, Crawford, Sebastian counties. It's light to moderate at times. The heaviest, of course, is going to be along that leading edge of that line, which is really exiting our viewing area. I think in the next probably 12 minutes, we're going to be done with severe storms, and we'll be able to end this stream and send you on about your merry way. If you're still with us, number one, we thank you for being here. We always hope that we can do a live stream for you to help you give you some information and see these storms together as we track them through the area. Right now, wind's the big concern, as Josh has been pointing out, in eastern Logan, eastern Scott County, but for the most part, a lot of us are done with the worst of the weather. We did have that one confirmed tornado that was coming in at Adair County early. That rotation continued over into Washington and tried to skirt its way into Crawford, but it really looks like it stayed mostly into southern Washington, maybe northern Crawford County. Some winds were up there, though, and I've seen a couple of reports of some tree damage, some power outages in Crawford County, so we'll have to investigate Weather Service, and they're actually already going to be in the area today doing their damage assessment and continuing trying to analyze what happened yesterday in Van Buren, assess an EF rating for that storm, and so they might as well probably end up just looking at some damage there while they're in town. So we'll be able to pass that along to you likely later this afternoon. I don't know for sure, but I would suspect, based off what I know about the situation, we very well could see some information from that later today. Flooding's the big issue right now that we're seeing across the majority of the area. The southern flank of that line really slowed down, and because it slowed down, it dumped a lot of water, and it continues to do so for many folks, especially there. We got some reports out of the Ozark, 64 right there in the middle part of town, not far from the Pizza Hut. There's the interchange there, 64 and 23, that car wash, Union Bank's right there. Some flooding in that general vicinity, that part of town, which often floods, so it's not necessarily super surprising, but that's ongoing out there this morning. And that's probably going to take an hour or two for some of those waters to start to recede, maybe a little bit longer in areas that saw a lot of rain yesterday. We've seen way more rain than we're typically used to seeing for this time of the year in recent weeks. And so flooding is going to be a concern. Of course, we had that flood watch going into this event, and for good reason. You still see those maroon polygons there. That's actually going to be current flood warnings. That extends from Siloam Springs through Lowland, Cave City, Highfill, Fayetteville, Johnson, Springdale, over towards War Eagle, Clifty, Huntsville, Hinesville. Well, it's like the Weather Service listening. They dropped that one as soon as I said it. But you get the point. You got some flood warnings out there this morning, and we'll probably end up having to have a one or two more before this is all said and done. Getting some more reports that Waldron has no electric. That's about the third report we've seen out of Waldron. It's more than likely lightning. Our count right now is up to 1,600 customers in Scott County, which is a large majority of Scott County currently without power out there. So perhaps you're watching us on your free mobile app or on Facebook or on YouTube on your phone. Right now I'm seeing 1,600, a little more than 1,600 folks there in Scott County without power. Hard to say. Was it the straight line winds? Was it the lightning? Was it both? Very well could be a possibility. There's both happening there in that area this morning. So hopefully we can get that power restored to you real quickly. There's a lot of other power outages out there this morning. In fact, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and pull that back up again, and we can kind of work through first with the Arkansas counties, and then we'll definitely work our way over to Oklahoma counties where there is some notable power outages there this morning as well. What the map's going to look like is this. We'll start in Scott County. It's standing out like a sore thumb there. A little more than 1,600 as previously mentioned. 93 Sebastian. Right now, just getting a report of 3 folks without power in Logan County. Let's see if that doesn't tick up as that line's still clearing the area. In Johnson County, a little more than 100 folks without power. Franklin, right around 355 right now. Madison County sticks out as well. Around 2,200 customers without power. In Washington County, 1,100 folks. Crawford County sitting at 712. Looks like in Benton County, 736. Now let's spend some time here in Oklahoma. We'll first start in Adair County, where right now 1,400 folks without power. In Sequoia, the number's notably lower, right now sitting around 150. But you get into LaFleur County, and we got a big power outage there in LaFleur County. Right now, 5,600 folks without power there in LaFleur County. We've had some strong storms move through there now 2 days in a row. So I'm not entirely sure whether those numbers are from this morning's storms or is it a combination of yesterday's and today's. Power outages nonetheless becoming a bit more pronounced as that line of storms has moved through, and a lot of folks are calling their power company and reporting those outages. Of course, they have some ways to monitor that remotely there as well. Inevitably, that information comes into us on the map that you're seeing on your screen. Right now, the time's 7:53. Severe thunderstorm warning continues for Logan and Scott counties, the eastern portions of Logan and Scott counties. For the most part, the severe aspect is moving out of the 5 News viewing area. I think within the next 5 to 6 minutes, it's going to be entirely out of the area, and we're going to go get a cup of coffee and rest our voices a little bit because we're going to have some more weather over the next couple of days. It does look like some rain is going to continue in the River Valley. You'll probably even have some additional showers in northwest Arkansas. You can kind of see some of those back towards Tulsa. That will be moving generally our direction. And so we'll have to watch for that this morning. Looks like the afternoon, probably a little bit better shape in terms of dry weather, maybe even a little bit of sunshine before the day's over with.
Yeah, and that's some incredibly good news for those who love Arkansas baseball. So I know time's here for the game. Fortunately, it looks like this is going to start to clear out. We'll need to watch this rain off to the west, but there is some good news that hopefully this will lead to some clearing a little bit quicker, just because some of the models were showing this leaving a lot later in the morning than it currently is there. So we've got a nice little afternoon potentially ahead. Can't rule out a stray shower or thunderstorm. Of course, we're going to be watching it around the clock, let you know if anything is going to interrupt that in terms of rain or even lightning. So good news is the worst of it's moving out. Johnson County is still included in a warning. You're fine. You're out of the worst of it. So that's what we've got there currently. But, you know, for the time being, it's just lightning, thunder, and it may sound scary at times, but the worst of it's moving out of our area. Things are going to start to wind down. Of course, we got this little stratiform rain that's going to be lingering across the area, so it's going to be pesky. It's going to be lingering for the river valley, but eventually things will start to clear out. It should be relatively nice. So, we've got a lot of activity the last couple of days, even the last couple of weeks, and that's why we're here. We're here to get you through it. We're here to let you know the very latest. That's why we stick with these things like we do, and just to give you kind of a sigh of relief, the worst of it is starting to wind down. So, it's good that we're starting to push this out just so we can personally get some rest, just because we've been up most of the night, if not all night, watching these storms moving into the area. And then, of course, you at home can also start to rest easy, just knowing that maybe a couple rumbles of thunder here and there will be possible, but it's just light rain basically from here on out. So how much time until...
Yeah, we've got that 2-minute cut in here over on Channel 5. We'll do that live, and then at that point we'll probably be in a safe place to end this stream, as the worst of the weather, the severe weather, has really pushed out of our viewing area at this point. We, in theory, could end the stream now, but we'll continue for just a few more minutes. For folks that are watching online on 5 News Plus this morning, or Facebook, YouTube, or on the mobile app, we have one of those CBS cut-ins that Josh was going to do live. It's going to take about 2 minutes. I think, Joshua, you'll have some radar, and then I'll queue up the 7-day forecast for you there as well.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. It's been a busy morning, to say the least, across the area. It's been loud. We've had heavy rain, thunder, damaging winds, even a couple of tornado warnings, but thankfully the worst of it is on its way out of our neck of the woods. We have this large severe thunderstorm warning that does clip portions of our eastern counties, but as you can see, the worst of it's starting to make its way out of our county coverage area. So there's some good news there. Just some light rain. It's going to continue for portions of the area for the next several hours. The main concern from here on out is going to be the localized flooding potential. We've already seen a lot of power outages. We've seen some localized flooding. So basically for the next couple of hours, we're going to see, power start to be restored to parts of the area, that water start to subside. The only severe thunderstorm warning that we have right now is for portions of Logan and Scott counties. But the worst of it, it's just basically on the county lines here. So the communities further off to the east in the eastern portions of Logan and Scott County are still seeing that frequent lightning. Just a little bit ago, we sampled this and it was up to 14 strikes in the last 10 minutes. So lots of lightning, heavy rain, some gusty winds. It's going to sound scary, but the worst of it is almost over. So give it a couple more minutes and then we'll get you through that storm. So the worst of it's on the way out. We're noticing a little bit less activity further to the west. So we've got some good news for Arkansas baseball fans. I know one of the biggest things in terms of the forecast on people's minds is baseball going to be nice? Well, it looks like we could get a break in the activity this afternoon. So we got the rain this morning. That's why we have that weather impact alert. And then once we get to this afternoon, start to see things start to wind down. So there's some good news there. Some rain chances here, there, the next couple of days, mostly in the overnight periods. We'll watch and we'll let you know the very latest in the shows coming up this evening. All right, welcome back, everyone. We're now done with our cut-in, and Scott was mentioning now that things are starting to wind down, it's feeling a little bit safer to go ahead and I think kind of wind this down here. Of course, just for the next couple of minutes, we know that there's people in these areas that are wondering maybe what about their communities here. The good news is, if we're not too alarmed, that's some good news there. Right now, it's like I said, it's going to be loud, it's going to be scary, heavy rainfall, of course, some 60-mile-per-hour winds at times, and then we've got the lightning. So it's going to be loud, it's going to be scary, but just give it a couple more minutes. The worst of it's going to be, long gone here in just a little bit, and then we can finally start to rest easy in some of our southeastern counties. So elsewhere around the region, light rain in portions of the river valley, starting to calm down in northwest Arkansas as well. And I do think that we're going to continue to see that break forecasted for by the time we get to baseball this evening here in northwest Arkansas for the Razorbacks versus Tennessee. So good news is, with that being said, it looks like we're going to have a nice little break for that game. I know that's on the minds of many here locally, and hopefully it'll be nice and maybe even some sunshine there as well. It is definitely going to be humid, so heads up there. But in the meantime, we're just going to get through this rain over the next little bit. Localized flooding. The floodwaters over the next several hours going to start to subside. We're going to start to see those power outages restored. So just give it a little bit longer if you're impacted by either of those, and we'll start to see those wind down.
I think that'll do it for us. This has been a long live stream here on Facebook Live, 5 News Plus, of course, the free mobile app there as well. Hope we've been able to walk you through some of these storms this morning. We do still have strong thunderstorms in Johnson and Scott County. You're hearing all that thunder, you're seeing all that lightning, you're thinking, wait, you're leaving me? Only because the severe weather threat is past. It's a good old-fashioned thunder shower at this point there in the Channel 5 viewing area. Severe weather threat is pushed out of our neck of the woods, and so it's safe for us to say good morning to you. Go get you a cup of coffee, go about your Saturday. Some drier weather not too far away. A lot of area farmers markets out there that I think some vendors may be setting up since things are starting to dry out. Whatever you end up doing today, of course, we hope you have a good day, and we will see you back here on your 5 News coming up at 6 o'clock tonight.